I know Dad's busy, but when will he ever be with me on my birthday? Last year on her birthday, my daughter, Mary, said this with a sorrowful look. Her father, Mark, always claims work obligations and is never home for her birthdays. This year, I convinced him to celebrate with her, and he had agreed. What time will he be back? He said he'd be home by evening. I picked up my phone and called Mark, but no matter how many times it rang, he didn't answer. What did Dad say? Maybe he's driving and can't pick up. Don't worry, he'll be here soon. I said this, silently praying over and over. By the time the clock in the living room struck 1 a.m., the front door quietly opened. Mark had finally come home. The food on the table had gone cold, and the cake had dried out. You're so late. Mary was up waiting for you until just a while ago. Unable to contain my emotions, I raised my voice, but Mark, unfazed, removed his jacket and muttered in a low tone, "Haven't you realized yet?" A cold glance shot my way. His icy demeanor seemed to admonish my outburst. I was stunned. Why he refuses to celebrate his daughter's birthday? He hinted at a fragment of the secret. Mark said nothing more and headed straight to the bedroom, closing the door behind him. I had to know the reason. What is Mark hiding? Resolving to uncover the truth, I stepped into his study. It was my first time there in years. The study was Mark's sanctuary, a place I avoided unless absolutely necessary. Scattered notebooks and papers covered the desk. Among them, a worn-out journal caught my eye. This is a diary. Its leather cover gleamed dully, scarred with use. Drawn to it, I slowly began turning the pages. Yulia. Under this name, I have stood in countless concert halls and received endless applause. Touching the piano keys conjures vivid musical landscapes engraved in my memory since childhood. Audiences are moved by my music, showering me with admiration. Among them was Mark, who later became my husband. Mark, a former musician and now a music school professor. Our story began when he spoke to me in detail about the pieces I performed after one of my concerts. Perhaps it was his deep passion for music that led him to do so. His words, though seemingly calm and intellectual, carried an inexplicable warmth. Maybe that's what drew me to him. Over time, as we deepened our mutual understanding as musicians, we dated for several years before getting married. Our married life was smooth sailing. I thought my life, fulfilled by music, was complete, but the addition of family brought a new dimension to it, a significant change in my journey, and the most important event for us was the birth of our daughter, Mary. Mary showed extraordinary talent. From a young age, she could sit at the piano and effortlessly string notes together. When she first performed on stage at the age of 5, the applause from the audience brought tears to my eyes. It was joy as a parent and pride as a musician. Mark also recognized Mary's talent, showering her with both expectations and love. Every time she practiced, he sat next to the piano, intently watching Mary's small hands move and offering precise guidance. "Mary, make this phrase a bit softer. Music is not just about technique, it's about conveying emotions." Mary nodded earnestly at his words and practiced repeatedly. When Mark praised her, Mary's eyes sparkled. I think that was the greatest reward for her, but I couldn't help noticing how much she worked hard to earn his affection. If her drive to excel in music stemmed from seeking Mark's approval, was that something to celebrate, or was it a burden? There was one particular reason that made me start having such concerns. Mark never celebrated Mary's birthday. It seemed too deliberate to be a coincidence. At first, I thought it was simply because of his work commitments. But this wasn't just a one-off or twice occurrence. Every year, on Mary's birthday, Mark would schedule business trips or lectures, always being away from home. By the time Mary entered elementary school, the pattern had become evident, and I found myself questioning him about it multiple times. Another trip this year. I mentioned it last year, but you do realize it's Mary's birthday, don't you? Why do you always have plans on this day? Mark averted his gaze for a brief moment, his expression stiffening slightly, before replying, I'm sorry, my work schedule isn't something I can completely control. Just bad luck, I guess. Mark shrugged and laughed as if joking, but there was a certain detachment to him. A strange discomfort lingered in my heart. Yet, I couldn't press him further. Pushing too hard would corner him, especially when he was genuinely busy with work. Perhaps, deep down, I also feared that pursuing the issue might disrupt the fragile balance of our family's peace. And I was more than worried of Mark's reasons for ignoring Mary's birthday. I was troubled by how his indifference might appear to Mary. Was she trying to fill that void by devoting herself to practice, hoping to win Mark's recognition? She was a child who never spared effort. Her small hands pressed the keys so diligently that they developed the distinct hardness unique to piano players. By the time she entered middle school, Mary had become a regular champion at national junior competitions, gaining recognition in the music world. Every time I heard her perform, I was amazed by her talent, but I also felt a slight fear. All of her energy was directed toward music, and beyond that music was Mark. Her determination to succeed, for Mark's sake, seemed admirable, yet somewhat painful to watch. Mary's birthdays were always marked with a small celebration by me, complete with a cake. Her 14th birthday was no different. Mark was absent again, but Mary didn't seem particularly upset. Blowing out the candles on the cake I prepared with a big smile. That night, Mary said something suddenly. I know Dad's busy, but when will he ever be with me on my birthday? My heart felt as though it was being squeezed. Mary hadn't become indifferent or accustomed to Mark's absence. Yet, she never blamed him. She quietly yearned for his love. I didn't know what to say, so I could only pull her shoulder closer to me. Afterwards, I went back to my room, sat in front of the piano, and touched the keys unconsciously. A short melody filled the room, carrying away the frustration tangled in my heart. Mary's talent was extraordinary, but the shadow behind that brilliance kept clouding my mind. The reason Mark avoided birthdays. That secret felt like a seed of unease growing within our family, and I let out a deep sigh. Someday, this small crack might grow into a large fissure. No sooner or later, we would have to face it. With that foreboding in my mind, I immersed myself in music, trying to comfort my unease. A year later, watching the night fall through the living room window, I couldn't suppress the unease spreading in my chest. Mark had promised to come home for Mary's birthday this year, now only a few days away. Are you really coming home this year? Mark had left on a business trip yesterday, but he said he would return in time for the birthday. Don't worry, this time I'll be there for sure. Mark's voice over the phone sounded too calm, which only heightened my anxiety. He had never been home for Mary's birthday before. Each year, he gave excuses about business trips or overlapping plans, always being away on that particular day. Although I had wondered about it, I never pressed the matter and kept swallowing my words. From the back of the living room, I heard quiet footsteps approaching. Mary must have finished her piano practice. Was that Dad just now? Yes, it was. He says he'll be home for your birthday this year. Really? Yay. Mary beamed with joy. She was already in her final year of middle school. I thought she'd grown so mature, but her innocent smile reminded me she was still a child. She always worked so hard to earn Mark's recognition, so at least on her birthday, she should feel free to be spoiled. Smiling, I placed my hand on Mary's shoulder. Since all three of us will be together, I thought we could have a special party this year. Special? What do you mean? I shared my idea with Mary. How about performing music? If you have any requests, I'll play something too. Do you have a piece you'd like to play for Mark, or show him? That's a great idea. Then I think I'll play Dad's song, Promise. Promise. It was the piece Mark had first taught Mary when she started learning piano. It symbolized a bond between them. Born through music, it was the perfect choice for a family birthday party. Do you think Dad will be happy? He said he still loves that piece, right? Of course. Mark is prouder of you than anyone else. Mary nodded repeatedly and turned back toward the piano. Then I'd better practice more. On the birthday, Mary, dressed in a light blue dress, sat at the piano. She was dressed up just like for a piano competition, with her makeup and hairstyle perfectly done. Mom, how do I look? Does it suit me? You look absolutely beautiful, like a princess. Come on, don't treat me like a kid. Even so, Mary spun around and gave a playful bow. In the evening, a small cake was placed on the table, along with a bouquet and presents arranged in the living room for the occasion. Mary played the piano or relaxed on the sofa, constantly glancing toward the entrance. What time will Dad be back? He said he'd be here by evening, but when the clock passed 7 p.m., I quietly glanced at Mary's face. Her cheerful smile was beginning to fade. I'm hungry. When will he be here? He's probably stuck in traffic, right? Yay, let me give him a call. I picked up my mobile phone and dialed Mark, but no matter how many times I tried, the call wouldn't go through. What did Dad say? Maybe he's driving, so I couldn't reach him. Don't worry, he'll be here soon. I said this while silently praying in my heart. By the time 11 p.m. rolled around, Mary had fallen asleep on the sofa, clutching her sheet music on her lap. I leaned down to look at her face and touched her hand. Her cold fingertips seemed to tell the story of how much she had longed for today. The ticking of the clock highlighted the silence of a home missing one member. The food on the table had gone cold, and the cake had dried out. The sheet music resting on Mary's chest had promise written in bold letters on its cover. Noticing the edge of the paper slightly damp from her tears, I felt my own welling up. Mark, why? The deeper the night grew, the more the silence of the room seeped into my skin. Mary continued to drift in and out of sleep. Seeing this, I finally said, "Why don't you head to bed? Perhaps too tired to wait." She nodded and carried her sheet music back to her room. Her small figure looked even smaller as she walked away. When the living room clock struck 1 a.m., the front door quietly opened. Mark had finally come home. "You're so late. Mary was up waiting for you until just a while ago." Unable to hold back my emotions, I raised my voice. The image of Mary waiting, only to fall asleep, filled my mind, and my chest tightened. But Mark, showing no sign of remorse, muttered in a low voice as he removed his jacket, "You still don't get it, do you?" A cold glance flicked toward me. His frosty demeanor seemed to rebuke my raised voice. I was stunned. Mark had hinted at a secret. "What are you talking about, Mark? Every year, you avoid Mary's birthday. What are you hiding?" Mark didn't answer and walked straight to the bedroom, closing the door behind him. His curt and suggestive behavior stirred both anger and confusion within me. In the end, I couldn't say anything. The next morning, Mark left the house early, wearing his usual indifferent expression. It was as if nothing had happened the night before. I stared blankly at the coffee cup Mark had left on the table, then suddenly stood up with determination. I need to know the truth, whatever Mark was hiding. If I didn't uncover it, I felt this family's harmony might never be restored. Driven by that thought, I made up my mind and stepped into Mark's study. As I opened the door, dim light softly illuminated the stacks of books and sheet music. It had been years since I last entered. The study was Mark's sanctuary, a place I avoided unless absolutely necessary. Scattered sheets of music and a notebook filled with incomplete melodies lay on the desk. Among them, one worn-out book caught my attention. This is a diary. The leather cover had a dull sheen, marked with scars from use. Drawn to it, I slowly began to flip through the pages. June 20th, 2000. The moment I saw the date, my heart felt like it stopped for an instant. It was the same day as Mary's birthday. Today, Rosalie's daughter passed away. The handwritten words leapt off the page. I hastily continued reading. I was the one who imposed excessively harsh training on her. In pursuit of perfection, hoping to unlock her talent, I pushed her too far. Because of that, she was utterly exhausted and lost her life the day before the competition. It's my fault. All of it is my fault. I collapsed onto the floor. A vague understanding of why Mark never celebrated Mary's birthday began to form in my mind. I opened the desk drawer and found an old sheet of music inside. The title read, Promise. It was a piece Mary had been practicing for Mark. I picked up the sheet and examined its details closely. On the edge of the page was a small note that read, For Kara. It was a piece Mark had composed for the girl who had passed away back then. I turned my eyes back to the diary. The words written there made my eyes widen. Every year, on June 20, I visit Kara's grave to pray. Rosalie never blames me. That only makes it harder. Rosalie. Her daughter was Mark's student. Rosalie was a well-known music producer, and I had met her a few times myself. When Mark was still a performer, he had worked with her several times and had introduced me to her. It was hard to believe that behind her gentle and beautiful smile lay such a tragic story. Rosalie's daughter passed away, and her death anniversary is on Mary's birthday. The weight of this truth bore down on me, and I crumpled to my knees. Mark's words, "Don't you realize?" finally made sense to me. However, I pulled myself together and stood up. What came to mind was what had happened the other day. The birthday party that had been planned for Mary. In the end, Mark never came home. The image of him right before he fell asleep on the sofa played in my mind over and over. Even if the death anniversary was a reason, it didn't justify hurting his own daughter, Mary, without any explanation. I reaffirmed my resolve to uncover the secrets Mark was keeping. Reaching for the desk again, I noticed a newspaper clipping beneath the diary. Picking it up, I was greeted by a sight that left me speechless. This is. The words barely escaped my lips. The clipping featured a major article about an accident from 25 years ago. Reading through the details, I felt a tightening in my chest. The article described, in vivid detail, the tragedy involving a prodigious pianist who had been poised for greatness but suffered an accident the day before a competition. After finishing her lesson, the girl whose instructor was likely Mark was so fatigued that she stumbled and fell onto the road with her bicycle. A heart-wrenching accident. Imagining something like this happening to Mary sent a sharp pain through me. Moving my eyes further, I noticed a photograph displayed beside it. It was a younger Mark, a woman who appeared to be Rosalie, and a girl standing together in the frame. Seeing Mark's smile stirred an inexplicable emotion in my chest. The warm gaze he never directed at Mary was unmistakably meant for the girl in the photo. Then the undeniable truth confronted me again. Just as Mark's diary had stated, the date of the accident was the same as Mary's birthday. My heart grew restless, and as I searched further in the study, I found a videotape. The label read competition. Despite my hesitation, I decided to play it. The footage revealed a young girl approaching the piano. Each note she played carried a familiarity, something reminiscent of Mary's performance. No, it wasn't just reminiscent. It was identical. It was as if the deceased girl's spirit had taken over Mary's playing style. What is this? Unspoken questions caught in my throat. In my mind, I heard the sound of something shattering. Had Mark, the Mark I thought I knew, ever truly faced our family? Just then, I heard the front door open. "I'm home." Mary's cheerful voice echoed through the house. Panicking, I stopped the video and quickly tidied up the desk. I couldn't let Mary discover any of this. "Welcome back, Mary. You're home early today." I rushed to the living room, trying to sound as bright as possible, though my heart still raced. "Oh, Mom, you're here. It was so quiet. I thought you'd left the door unlocked and gone shopping." "I'd never do that. I was just in the bathroom." Mary didn't probe any further and retreated to her room. What followed was a blur. As usual, I greeted Mark when he returned from work and prepared dinner. Before I knew it, it was late at night, and I woke up on the living room sofa. Beside me, Mary was softly breathing in her sleep, her schoolwork still spread out on the table. Watching her peaceful face, an indescribable emotion welled up inside me. The secret I had learned earlier that day. Mark's student had died in an accident. The anniversary of her death coincided with Mary's birthday, which Mark prioritized each year. Put simply, that was all it was. I could tell Mark I knew, and I could suggest he share a partial truth with Mary. She would understand, but would that really resolve anything? The smile Mark had given the girl in the photo, the performance style of the girl, so similar to Mary's. I couldn't ignore these lingering doubts any longer. I had avoided confronting Mark's secret for so long. I had feared upsetting the balance of our family. But because of that, I didn't want Mary to be hurt any further. I couldn't keep pretending. I had to face Mark and Mary head on. Gently stroking Mary's hair, I made a silent vow in my heart. And now, I was staring at Mark's sleeping profile in our bedroom. A calmness I had never felt before enveloped me. Quietly, I picked up Mark's phone and began to navigate its screen. This felt like an act of profound betrayal. The thought that I would ever do something like this would have been unimaginable just a short time ago. However, after watching that video and reading the diary, I couldn't resist finding out what Mark was hiding. Mark's smartphone wasn't locked. Perhaps he never thought I would do something like this. When I opened the messaging app, the name Rosalie immediately caught my eye. If I went any further, there would be no turning back. That feeling made me almost put the phone down. But with trembling fingers, I tapped on her name. Messages appeared before my eyes. "How's Mary progressing? Do you think she can move on to the next stage?" "No problem. She's doing great. If Kara were still alive, she might have gone even further, but Mary's exceeding expectations. I'm so glad. Our dream will surely come true again." Those words made an indescribable sense of dread rise within me. Mary's progress. If Kara were still alive, our dream. These phrases burned into my mind, connecting to the worst possible conclusion. Mark and Rosalie were seeing Mary's performance as a reflection of that girl, raising her the same way, as if she wasn't our daughter but their possession. Scrolling further, a shocking truth came to light. The relationship was far deeper than I had ever imagined. Watching Mary play like Kara makes me feel like we can rebuild our family again. You, me, and Mary, let's start over. My hand holding the phone froze, and my vision blurred. The only sound I could hear was the pounding of blood in my ears. This wasn't just about prioritizing an anniversary. Mark was deeply involved with Rosalie and trying to create a family of 3, replacing our daughter with the deceased girl. The unbearable truth made me almost sob, but I desperately stifled my voice so as not to wake Mark, sleeping beside me. Returning the phone to its place, I hurried to the living room. In the quiet room, alone with this horrifying reality, I bit my lip. The next morning, I visited a private investigator. It was a place a friend had once recommended when dealing with family issues. I immediately asked them to look into Rosalie's background. They mentioned it should be relatively easy since she was well known in the industry as a producer, openly working under her name. In fact, I received a call within just a few days. When I returned to the investigator's office to receive the report, I was rendered speechless by the most shocking revelation. Rosalie had a daughter 25 years ago with a man. That daughter was Kara, the girl who had died in the accident, and the father of that girl was Mark. Mark and Rosalie were having an affair back then. This relationship has continued to this day, as confirmed in our investigation. No way. Rosalie had once mentioned having been married, but that wasn't true. She had subtly hinted at her affair with Mark during that time. Moreover, it was found that Rosalie had influenced Mary's past competitions. She manipulated results as a judge, ensuring Mary would win. With truth after truth coming to light, my mind went completely blank. After the girl passed away, Rosalie became mentally unstable and had been undergoing regular treatment. Then, believing Mary to be the girl's reincarnation, Rosalie, with Mark's agreement, began to plan for Mary to take the girl's place. Mary's victory in the competition had been orchestrated. Her sincere efforts had been exploited, turning her into a substitute for the deceased girl. Everything was a betrayal to Mary. I recalled how Mary practiced diligently, hoping to gain Mark's approval. Anger consumed me, making my mind go blank. Perhaps that's why the despair of being betrayed and cheated on by Mark felt like a distant issue hidden behind a curtain. I didn't care about myself. Mary's well-being was my top priority. With that thought, I made up my mind. There was no time to cry over despair. Mark and Rosalie would undoubtedly try to take Mary away from me. Before those two made their move, I needed to take action. A few days later, I told Mark, after he had finished dinner, that I needed to talk. Although we maintained a semblance of our usual routine, an awkward tension had lingered between us since Mary's birthday. Mary had already gone back to her room. "How come you're so formal all of a sudden?" Facing him as he sat on the couch, I spoke with a tense expression. "About Mary's birthday the other day. Again with that. It's over already." Mark scowled openly, but that reaction was expected. I pressed on. "No, it's not that. I don't care about it anymore." "What do you mean you don't care?" Finally, I voiced the words I had repeated to myself countless times. "I've always felt suffocated living in this house." That feeling turned into certainty on that day. Mark stared at me in astonishment. "I'm leaving this house." "What are you saying?" "Leaving the house. What about Mary?" "She's your daughter." I nodded, then shook my head. "I'm giving up my daughter." Mark was speechless. Ignoring his reaction, I brought the luggage I had already packed from the corner of the living room. Yet, even as I prepared to leave, Mark didn't say anything to stop me. The only thing he finally said was, "Don't say that. How do you think Mary will feel?" It was a non-committal line. "Isn't it fine? You're here. Mary is attached to you, isn't she?" Even to my cold words, Mark showed a somewhat relieved expression. "Well, that may be true. That's right. You'll take care of Mary's lessons in my place, won't you?" "Of course. I'll take full responsibility for her talent." Mark spoke with confidence. It was as if he wanted to appear as a supportive husband, encouraging me to leave with peace of mind. But is there really a husband who wouldn't even try to stop his wife from leaving? Doesn't he realize how unnatural this is? This man envisions a future where he pushes me out and controls Mary alongside Rosalie. Well then, goodbye. I'll leave while Mary is still asleep. I headed to the hotel I had already booked. I planned to stay there for a few days and make preparations. Finally able to move freely, I kept in touch with the investigation company. I also reached out to people in the music industry. It was necessary to confirm the extent of Rosalie's influence and uncover how she was affecting Mary. Additionally, based on information from the investigation company, I consulted with a psychiatrist to deepen my understanding of Rosalie's condition. Directly asking wouldn't yield any answers about a patient's state, so I presented myself as someone who had lost a child. And here's what I discovered. Sometimes, I start to feel like other people's children are my own. Does this happen often? Yes, some people do experience those feelings. They may see a child who looks similar and think of them as a reincarnation. Reincarnation. What happens when those feelings intensify? Do people ever harm other children? I don't want to do something like that. Please, stay calm. While it's not unheard of for someone to fixate on another child, the fact that you've come to consult us is a positive step. The doctor's comforting words barely registered with me. The investigation's findings were true. Rosalie believed Mary to be the reincarnation of her deceased daughter and was fixated on her. I was convinced my decisions and actions were correct. I could not let Mary be sacrificed to them any longer. As her mom, I had a duty to protect her. A few days later, I returned to the house alone. Stepping into the dimly lit hallway, I heard voices coming from down the corridor. It was Mark and Rosalie. My heart raced. Carefully suppressing my presence, I followed the voices. The living room door was slightly ajar, and through the crack, I could see the two of them. Mark was spreading out documents on the table, pointing at something and explaining. Rosalie was seated on the couch, nodding and smiling. "This is the living room, and you can see the park from the window. I think Mary will love it. How wonderful! Finally, we can be a real family. Yes, from now on, the three of us." The moment I heard those words, I flung the door open, driven by a surge of emotions. "What are you doing?" My sudden appearance made them freeze for a moment. Rosalie stared at me in shock. Mark, on the other hand, glanced at Rosalie, then quickly masked his unease with a strained frown. "Yulia, did you forget something? You could have called, and I would have sent it to you. You've already left, so this house isn't yours anymore." Mark's attempt to justify bringing another woman into the house was clear, but I was prepared for such behavior. I looked at Mark and Rosalie coldly. More importantly, where's Mary? She hasn't come home yet. Don't tell me you had a change of heart and took her away. Mary isn't coming back here. I've already told her everything. At that moment, Mark fell silent. His wandering, unstable gaze seemed to search for the truth in my words. His lips quivered. His face gradually lost all color. Mark, trying to mask his visible agitation, scoffed. "What are you talking about? Everything? What do you even mean? You must have gone crazy from loneliness after choosing to leave on your own. The ones who've truly lost it are you and Rosalie. Rosalie, startled by the sudden mention of her name, flinched in surprise. I continued speaking before she could respond. You're both obsessed with this delusion that Mary is the reincarnation of your deceased child, and you've schemed to make her yours. Who's really crazy here? Mary knows about all of this, but I wonder who she would think is out of their mind, me or you two. As I spoke, Rosalie's expression shifted dramatically. Her initial look of shock morphed into anger, and then finally, a defiant smirk twisted her lips. With a mocking grin, she said, "So she already knows. That makes things easier. Where is Mary? There's no way I'd tell you. You'll never see her again." Rosalie's face darkened in an instant. The calm, public persona she usually wore was gone, replaced by a raw, blatant hatred. Enough of this nonsense. Mary belongs to us. Rosalie stood up, advancing toward me, but I didn't flinch. If I backed down now, I couldn't protect Mary. Mary isn't your daughter. I won't let you use her for your twisted fantasies anymore. At my outburst, Rosalie grabbed my arm. Mark stood up as well, and the two of them closed in on me. "Shut up. Mary is her reincarnation. You wouldn't understand. Mary is Mary. She's your daughter, isn't she? What have you been looking at over the last 15 years? What do you even know?" Mark's hysterical yelling echoed through the house. Rosalie joined in, attacking me verbally. "Yulia, it's because you're so incompetent that we had to step in. Mary needs us." I struggled desperately to break free from them, but their strength overpowered me. Even so, the thought of protecting Mary kept me moving. Mary isn't your property. I'm her mom, and I will protect her no matter what." Just then, I heard a noise near the front door. A voice followed as the door opened. "This is the police. We received a report." The two froze in surprise. Apparently, one of the neighbors had called the police after hearing Mark shouting. As the officers entered the living room, Rosalie quickly let go of my arm, but Mark continued to glare at me. "Everyone, please calm down. What is going on here?" I tried to steady my breathing as I prepared to explain what had happened, but before I could, Rosalie quickly began making excuses. "We were just talking about family matters." And then this person started causing a scene. Her incoherent words clearly painted me as the one at fault in the eyes of the officer. Mark frantically tried to calm Rosalie down, but she refused to stop. The officer, unaffected by their exchange, scanned the situation with a composed demeanor. Then his eyes landed on my injured arm, and he shot a sharp look at Mark. "You raised your hand against her, didn't you?" "No, that's not it. This is a misunderstanding." The officer looked at me as if seeking confirmation of Mark's claim. I shook my head desperately, silently pleading for help. "Let's take a moment to discuss this calmly." With that, the officer escorted the two of them outside. The officer asked if I wanted to go to the hospital, but I declined, saying it wasn't necessary. He explained that they would need to question me further later, but would wait until I was ready. He left his contact information, urging me to reach out when I felt up to it, then left. Once the house fell silent again, I collapsed to my knees on the living room floor. My entire body trembled, but one thing was crystal clear to me. This was the first step toward protecting Mary. Several months have passed since that day. As Mark and Rosalie's wrongdoings came to light, our lives changed dramatically. Rosalie faced scandal after scandal as her manipulative tactics in the music industry, including judging interference and secret dealings, were exposed. The bashing towards a once prominent producer and familiar face in the media was huge. She could no longer maintain her position in the industry. Their names frequently appeared in headlines and news reports, and every time I saw them, I felt a tangle of emotions. After questioning by the police, Rosalie spiraled into a state of mental collapse and is now reportedly in a recovery facility. Whether she will ever fully confront her misdeeds is unclear, but that is no longer my concern. Mark, too, has lost everything he had built as a musician. His credibility within the industry is destroyed. His university position is gone, and he is now burdened with alimony payments following our divorce proceedings. I formally filed for divorce, and he accepted without any resistance. I'm sorry, I was wrong about everything. His voice was weaker than I had ever heard, laced with resignation. I couldn't tell whether he felt genuine remorse or guilt for his actions toward me. Perhaps the only thing he regretted losing was Mary, but regardless of his feelings, I had no intention of forgiving him. There was no reason to keep him in my life anymore. Protecting my new life with Mary. Nothing is more important than that. And in the future of our family, Mark has no place. When Mary found out what her dad had done with his mistress, she was deeply shocked. I'm standing on a foundation of lies. Even winning that competition wasn't because of my talent. No, Mary. Your music is genuine. I promise you. No one can deny the hard work you've put in. Even so, for a while, she refused to play the piano. The practice room she locked herself in was filled not with vibrant music, but with a cold, lonely silence. When I quietly peeked inside, I saw her small figure sitting motionless at the piano. It was no surprise she wanted to step away from music after everything that had happened. Even if she chose to leave music, it was her life to decide. I was determined to respect whatever path Mary chose, and to support her in any way I could. But even during such a time, those who loved her music stayed by her side. One day, a renowned musician and Mary's mentor visited her. You have an extraordinary gift. No matter what anyone says, that remains an unshakable truth. Playing music that brings joy to others is something you can take pride in. Mary was moved to tears by those words and slowly began to approach the piano again. Her music became more delicate yet more powerful than ever before. The way she worked to reclaim her unique sound was nothing short of beautiful. Then came Mary's birthday. We held a small concert, just the two of us. The audience consisted of close friends and the mentors who had supported her. Yet, the space was filled with warm music and love. Mom, let's play together today. Her suggestion overwhelmed me with emotion. As we sat side by side on stage and played our first duet, I felt her music resonate directly with my heart. That feeling was indescribably profound. After the performance, Mary looked at the audience with a shy smile. Being able to continue my music is thanks to all of you who support me. I will cherish my music from now on. Seeing her like that, I was confident her future would be bright. She would walk her own life, one where no one could hurt her again. We have continued to hold a concert every year on her birthday. Mary has grown into an independent musician, and I have found a new path as both her mom and an individual. The joy of music lies in sharing it with someone, and I am deeply grateful for the days when Mary and I can rediscover that truth together.
Please don't be a nuisance to me. I mean, you rely on others too much, right? Try to handle things on your own a bit, will you? Callie spoke these thoughtless words to Bianca, who is physically challenged. Unaware of the struggles Bianca faces. I'll never forgive this. If you dare speak ill of Bianca again, be prepared. I'm Mila. 27 years old. Living with my parents. I work and could live alone. Considering my age, few of us are likely to live at home. But I stay home for a reason. That reason is my sister, Bianca. Bianca was born with nerve issues, making it hard for her to move. She needs care, especially since our father passed away. And it's too much for our mom to handle alone. It's not easy assisting someone's daily life. And mom isn't young anymore. So, I take the lead in caring for Bianca. Are you okay, Bianca? Does your body hurt? No, I'm fine. Thank you. Bianca, despite her pain, always worries about me. She tries to do everything she can and used to apologize all the time when I started caring for her. Seeing her like that made my heart ache. Bianca, please don't apologize. But, after asking her several times, she reluctantly agreed. She feels sorry, but I don't mind at all. Mom opposed me taking care of her. Worried about my age, job, and marriage prospects. But I care more about Bianca. And want to stay by her side. Each time Mom brought it up, I'd rebel. I want to be with Bianca. Reflecting on it now, I was quite childish. Mom understood and stopped objecting. She takes care of Bianca while I'm at work. I'm grateful for her concern. But being there for Bianca means the most to me. After Bianca sleeps, Mom and I share our day's events. Mom seems happy. It reminds me that we rarely had these talks during my teenage years, and I wonder if she enjoys our conversations. Then, one day, while caring for Bianca, she mentioned something. Callie's birthday is coming up soon. Ah, Callie. I was confused. Callie is my younger sister. I'm the middle of 3 sisters. After graduating high school, Callie left home and never returned. She doesn't answer calls or emails. And it's unclear if she even reads them. Callie always disliked Bianca for her disability. Bianca, you're gross. Stay away from me, she would say, causing trouble for Mom and Bianca. As a child, she found Bianca's differences suspicious. When Mom scolded her, "Hey, you can't say that," Callie would behave for a while but soon start harassing Bianca again. Hiding her pencil case, using foul language. Mom and I were exasperated with Callie. As she grew into a teenager, her attitude towards Bianca worsened. She started staying out late. And it wasn't unusual for her not to come home. No matter how much we cautioned her. "Shut up! Don't interfere!" She'd yell and storm out. Eventually, Mom gave up. Just let her be. And on the day Callie left home after high school, she said this to Bianca. "Please, don't trouble me. I mean, you're too dependent on others, right? Try to do something on your own for a change." Callie, oblivious to Bianca's situation, uttered these words. Bianca, despite her limitations, strived to be independent. She browsed job listings with her immobile body, determined to work. Ultimately, she couldn't find employment and remained home, but she never stopped trying to increase what she could do by herself. I couldn't forgive Callie for her heartless remarks. "Really, Callie?" As I was about to lash out, Bianca stopped me. "Maybe that's how Callie sees it. Sorry for being such a burden," she said. Looking at Callie, her face a mix of irritation and smugness, she left home. And we lost touch. I heard from relatives that Callie got married right after high school, likely spending time at her boyfriend's place even when she was away from our home. Initially, I tried reaching out. But she never responded. So, I tried to live without thinking about Callie. Bianca, are you going to contact Callie again this year? Yeah, I think I'll try. Despite the hurtful words, Bianca still sent birthday messages to Callie, knowing she wouldn't reply. Bianca said she wanted to at least wish Callie a happy birthday, since she couldn't do much for her. I'd tell her she's kind, but she always denied it. Just normal, she'd say, shyly smiling. Months later, Mom and I looked down at Bianca. She lay peacefully in her hospital bed. Her condition worsened after Callie's birthday, and she passed away. It was heartbreaking to see Bianca, who could no longer speak, and I cried daily. There was no reply from Callie. Even when I informed her of Bianca's death, there was no response. Though Callie resented Bianca, she was still family. I hoped for even a single word, but it seemed I expected too much. I sent the funeral details, but Callie didn't reply or attend. Mom, either resigned or forgetful, never mentioned Callie again. After the funeral, Mom and I cleared out Bianca's room. In the closet, I found an album I never knew Bianca had. It contained photos of Bianca, Mom, and me on outings, and pictures from my childhood. Did Mom know about these photos? When asked, she revealed Bianca had secretly collected photos of me, finding strength in my smile. Hearing this, I burst into tears, sobbing like a child, comforted by Mom. Then, I felt something warm on my head. Looking up, I saw Mom crying too, holding my hand. Bianca was that loved. A year has passed since Bianca's departure. Since then, my heart has felt empty, filled with a sense of loss. My days are spent in a job I don't enjoy. While Mom and I remain close, it's not enough to fill the void Bianca left. I wonder what will become of me. I realized I was thinking about such things. But then, one day, I got a call on my mobile phone from an unknown number. Who could it be? After a few rings, I answered, and the person on the other end was unexpected. Hello, this is Sterling, Callie's husband. Excuse me? You're Callie's husband? That was Callie's husband. Sterling, my brother-in-law. The mystery deepened. What could Sterling possibly want with me? In response to my question, "Yes," he said. His tone sounded somewhat angry. Do you need something?" As I waited for his next words, Sterling said something even more surprising. "Please pick up your sister with disabilities. We've been looking after her for 6 months now." An impossible situation had arisen. Bianca was with Sterling. I was so taken aback, I fell silent. Thinking I was upset, Sterling pressed on. "Why are you silent? Don't you care about your sister? What kind of human are you?" They have been even more driven. His words bewildered me, but I spoke about Bianca. Bianca passed away a year ago. But Sterling, perhaps in his excitement, wasn't listening. "Tired of caring and just dumping her on someone else? Your sister looked so sad, like she's been abandoned." This conversation was going nowhere. I interrupted Sterling to repeat about Bianca. "Bianca died a year ago." After a brief silence, Sterling spoke. "Is that true?" It seemed my words finally reached him. I calmly explained to a now composed Sterling that Bianca had died a year ago, and that it was Callie, not me, who had disliked Bianca. I also mentioned that we had informed Callie when Bianca passed away. Shocked, Sterling seemed at a loss for words. Then, with a trembling voice, he said, "Then who is the woman in our house?" "Excuse me?" I listened to Sterling's story. Apparently, 6 months ago, Callie brought home a woman in a wheelchair, claiming she was her sister. Initially, they tried contacting us repeatedly, but nobody will listen, it's pointless. Callie had said, refusing to acknowledge us. Despite claiming the woman was Bianca, Callie didn't care for her at all. After returning from work, all the care fell on Sterling. Despite hearing the entire story, I couldn't grasp the situation. And it seemed Sterling himself felt the same. Would you mind coming to our house? Maybe it's better to talk in person. Indeed, meeting and talking in person would be quicker than over the phone. I agreed to Sterling's suggestion and decided to visit his apartment with Mom next weekend. When I told Mom about the call from Sterling and the story about Bianca, she was very surprised. She was also quite scared that Bianca, who was supposed to be gone, might be there. Finally, the day arrived. Bracing ourselves, we left the house and headed to Sterling's apartment, nervous. Is this the place? I muttered, and Mom beside me nodded. She seemed quite tense as well. We approached the designated room and rang the bell. Then, from inside the room, we heard 2 sets of footsteps stop abruptly. The door opened, and a fresh-faced young man appeared. Mother-in-law, sister-in-law, thank you for coming all this way. Saying so, Sterling led us inside. We followed his lead and were about to enter the room. But we were interrupted by a certain person, making it difficult to enter smoothly. Hey, why are you here? I didn't call you, and you haven't even met Sterling, right? Just do as I say and leave quickly. Yet, Callie, claiming to be the sister, didn't care for the woman at all. She physically blocked us, creating a wall to prevent us from entering the living room, but we managed to get past it. Turning to Sterling's side, I saw a woman sitting in a wheelchair. Her eyes filled with fear, unsure of how to react. Is this lady your sister? Sterling asked, pointing to her. The woman appeared to be around Bianca's age. Of course, neither Mom nor I knew her. No, she's not. We don't know her. I responded. I see. Sterling quietly said. He then turned back to the woman. Meanwhile, Callie was trembling and had collapsed on the floor. Ignoring Callie's state, Sterling asked the woman, "Who are you, exactly?" But the woman didn't respond. Something was going on. Maybe she was threatened by Callie into silence. I turned back to Callie. Who is this woman? You brought her here, right? I asked, but Callie remained silent as usual. What? You didn't bring a stranger here, did you? As I raised my voice in question, a soft voice came from behind. It seemed to be from the woman in the wheelchair. Looking at her again, she appeared remorseful and stayed quiet. After a deep breath, she slowly started to reveal her identity. I am. Don't say anything! Don't talk! Callie desperately shouted, trying to prevent her from speaking. Hearing this, Imam was very angry. You stay quiet! And raised her voice. Surprised by her tone, Callie gave up on speaking. We turned back to the woman, encouraging her to continue. Slowly, despite being scared, she began to reveal the full story. My name is Christina Redmaniel. Redmaniel! Sterling exclaimed loudly upon hearing her name. It was unfamiliar to us. Sterling, do you know her? Do I know her? Could you be the daughter of Mr. Redmaniel? Christina nodded. Hearing more from Sterling, it turned out that Christina was the daughter of Sterling's boss. Hearing this, both Mom and I were perplexed. Sterling, trying his best to explain, also seemed unsure of what was happening. What was Callie trying to do, bringing a complete stranger and claiming her to be Bianca? Beyond questions, I felt fear. It seemed the only way to get answers was to confront Callie directly. I stood up next to Callie, who still sat on the floor with a disgruntled expression, and demanded an explanation. What's going on? You started all this, right? Involving so many people is unthinkable. Explain everything. However, Callie just stood there, staring off into space, refusing to speak. Even when cornered like this, she seemed unwilling to reveal the truth. I knew Callie had issues, but I didn't expect her to be this stubborn. What should we do now? As I pondered, Christina spoke up. Callie is dating my brother. She said it straight, looking right at us, unlike her earlier frightened demeanor. Noticing Christina's boldness, Callie glared at her. And then, Callie tried to pounce on Christina. We managed to stop her and turned our attention back to Christina. Stammering at times, but earnestly, Christina shared her story. Callie tried to interrupt, but Mom's stern look silenced her. Christina revealed she had been living with a disability in her lower body since a childhood accident. Since then, her family had been overly cautious around her, making her feel uncomfortable. One day, after more than 10 years of this, Callie suddenly showed up. "I'll take you in," she had said. Confused, Christina eventually felt less afraid, knowing Callie was her brother's partner. Perhaps Callie took Christina in to impress her boyfriend. Once at Callie's home, Callie did nothing for Christina, leaving everything to Sterling. When alone with Callie, the kindness shown at the time of taking her in vanished. "You're in the way," Callie would say, often negating Christina's existence. The way she treated Christina was similar to how she had treated Bianca. "A nuisance. Go away. Don't be dependent." It was too cruel, considering she had taken Christina in. Hearing this, I was shaking with anger. Such a person being my sister is too shameful. "What do you mean, Callie?" I asked. Callie retorted loudly. "It's all Sterling's fault. He's always busy with work and doesn't pay attention to me. That's for the family's sake. How dare you talk so arrogantly when you don't even work?" Sterling was clearly angry, hearing such childish excuses. "If you are not working, it would be nice to have Sterling go to work for you." Watching Callie continue with her excuses, I was overwhelmed with anger like never before. Just as I was about to unleash my anger on Callie, Sterling spoke up. "Do you realize how many people you're hurting, Callie? Your sister, mother, Christina, your late sister. As a human being, you're out of line." Callie stopped making excuses and was visibly shocked. Callie, usually faced with a calm Sterling. She tried to retort, but ultimately, she couldn't find the words against Sterling's anger. Sterling continued to explain how serious the situation was. "But, I mean, Callie tried to make more excuses, but tears prevented her from speaking clearly. Seeing Callie acting like a victim infuriated me, and I spoke up again. "Do you know how much Bianca worried about you, Callie?" Callie turned towards me, tears in her eyes. "I don't know any sister. I don't have a sister." Her words left me in shock. I never expected her to say something like that. I was at a loss for words, but before I knew it, this is what came out of my mouth. "Do you know, Callie, that Bianca sent you an email every year on your birthday, despite the terrible things you said to her? She always thought of you." Then Callie hung her head down again. She must have known about the birthday emails, but chose to ignore them. I couldn't help but blurt out. "Despicable," I said. Callie didn't expect such words from me. She remained silent, tears quietly streaming down her face. Afterward, Sterling and Callie got divorced. Sterling seemed very angry with his brother for neglecting Christina and discussed with his boss the affair and the treatment of Christina. Soon, rumors about the brother, some perhaps unfounded, began to spread in the company. He tried to endure at first, but eventually resigned. Callie, after the divorce, moved in with Christina's brother, but with him leaving his job, they had no source of income. They moved from their previous residence to a cheaper apartment and somehow managed to get by. After the divorce, Callie came to me, begging, "Let me live at our parents' house." Of course, I refused. Mom and I somehow managed to send her back. This time, unlike before, Callie sent many messages, but I ignored all of them. Eventually, the messages stopped. However, what really bothered me was why Christina stayed in that house without any resistance. Christina and I became friends after that incident. Out of curiosity, I asked her why she didn't try to escape, and her answer was surprising. It turned out that Christina had fallen in love with Sterling, who cared for her without expecting anything in return. She knew she would never be with him if she stayed. But going back home wasn't an option either, as she wouldn't be treated well there. Callie's words were hurtful, but being near Sterling made her happy. Now, amazingly, she and Sterling are married. "What? Married?" I exclaimed in surprise. I had not expected such a turn of events. Sterling, too, must have been drawn to Christina while caring for her. Now they live together in that apartment. Upon closer inspection, a ring shone on her left ring finger. Despite everything, had this incident not happened, Christina and I wouldn't have become close friends, nor would she have married Sterling. It was a complex process, but if everyone is happy now, that's what matters. I too need to find a marriage partner soon. With that thought, I sipped my coffee.
I've been waiting for you. I just wanted to have a quiet, one-on-one chat after so long. It's been 8 years since Mia's real mom passed away in that tragic accident, and I've raised Mia as if she were my own child. What's for dinner tonight? Meatloaf. The meat was on sale today. Well, that's awesome. We chatted about her club team, her homework, and her plans to hang out with friends. When we got home, I noticed my son Jack's shoes at the entrance, along with Samantha's his new wife. As we passed the hallway near the living room, I overheard their voices. I reached for the door, but froze when I caught a single word from their conversation. Mia was also listening intently. What? No way. They couldn't be talking about that. Quickly and quietly, we packed a few things and slipped out without a sound. My name is Natalie, and I'm 67 years old. I lost my husband years ago, and now I live with my son Jack, his wife Samantha, and my granddaughter Mia. Mia is 16, a junior at the local high school. Grandma, can you come watch my next club game? Even though she's in her teenage years, she's still very close to me. But Samantha isn't Mia's real mom. Mia's real mom passed away suddenly in a car accident when Mia was just 8 years old. Those days are etched in my memory, no matter how much I try to forget. At the funeral, Mia screamed and sobbed uncontrollably, while Jack sat in a daze. The image of them at the cremation ceremony. It was heartbreaking and unbearable to witness. Even after returning to our daily lives, Mia cried every day, mourning her mom. It got so bad that she couldn't even go to school for a while. Jack, who should have been there to support her, instead grew distant. Mia's meals were always fast food that Jack picked up on his way home from work. Apparently, she ate them alone every single day. For a growing teenager like Mia, a diet of fast food every day was concerning from a nutritional standpoint. On top of that, Mia has a sesame allergy. I understand how dangerous that is better than anyone, as I have the same allergy myself. But I doubted whether Jack even remembered or considered this when buying her food. Sitting together as a family, sharing a warm, home-cooked meal, and talking about the events of the day. These simple moments of connection are especially crucial when a loved one is gone. in a time when emotional stability was already fragile. Such an environment only pushed Mia further into isolation. I couldn't just stand by and watch. I had to protect her. It felt like my duty. That's why I suggested to Jack that I move in with them. Jack, how about I move in with you too? You've been so busy with work, and I'm worried about Mia's allergy. Yay, that might be for the best. It'd help me out a lot, he replied. Jack agreed without hesitation, but it didn't feel like gratitude. It felt more like he was relieved to have someone take over the responsibility. It was as if he saw Mia as a burden he could now pass on to me. He didn't seem to care about her well-being at all. He used to be such a kind boy, but he's changed. Seeing my own son act this way was a shock to me. Still, I told myself that maybe he was still processing the trauma of the accident. I remembered how after my husband died, I was so overwhelmed by my own grief that I couldn't think about anyone else. Maybe Jack just needed more time. For now, I would step in to heal Mia in his place. With that resolve, I moved into Jack's house and devoted myself to caring for Mia. We'd start our mornings cooking breakfast together. In the evenings, we'd water the garden together. Afterward, we'd sit down for dinner and share light-hearted conversations about our day. When Mia looked like she was about to cry, I would gently rub her back and silently support her small shoulders. One day, she would open up. I was determined to let her take her time at her own pace. Even while juggling a part-time job, I stayed as close to her as possible. One evening, as the sun was setting, Mia spoke. "Grandma, Mom's never coming back, is she? I'll never see her again, right?" I nodded and answered quietly, "No, sweetheart, but she's always watching over you." Mia lowered her head for a moment. Then she looked up at me and gave a small smile. "You're right." From that moment, her face started to brighten little by little. She even started going outside with me for errands. The days she didn't cry grew more frequent. One day, she even said, "I think I'm ready to go back to school. Here's the class handouts. Mia's seat is by the window. Please tell her we can't wait to have her back." After saying that, Mia's classmates began bringing her handouts every week, starting from the week after the funeral. With their support, she slowly started going back to school. Before I knew it, more than 6 months had passed since the funeral. The pain and sadness of losing her beloved mom so suddenly will likely never fully heal. But even so, Mia has started smiling again, facing each day with determination and strength. She truly is resilient. For all the love her mom can no longer give her, I will make sure to love her wholeheartedly from now on. That is the responsibility I've been entrusted with. I made a vow to myself, and then, a few years passed. Mia has grown up so much. I hear there are still nights when she cries, thinking about her mom. But now, she can laugh as she recalls the happy memories they shared. Thankfully, she hasn't shown much rebellion during her teenage years. Her long hair and mature demeanor make me proud, though I can't help but feel a tinge of sadness seeing how much she's grown. Girls grow up so quickly, don't they? It reminded me of when my own daughter was her age. I couldn't help but feel nostalgic. Meanwhile, Jack seemed oblivious to Mia and focused solely on his work. He left for work early in the morning, and most nights he had dinner outside, since he no longer had to bring her fast food. There were even nights when he didn't come home at all, even on weekends. He claimed to be busy with work or business dinners, and was rarely around. At first, I thought he was throwing himself into work as a way to cope with his grief. But it became clear that wasn't the only reason. In the beginning, Mia desperately tried to reach out to him, hoping to rebuild their relationship. "Dad, Tomorrow is the school performance. You'll come, right? It was an event that had been planned for months. Mia had been asking Jack to attend for weeks. She had practiced her lines every night and was clearly looking forward to it. But Jack's response was dismissive. "Oh, yay, you mentioned that. Sorry, I've got an important meeting tomorrow. I can't make it." Without saying a word, Mia lowered her head and retreated to her room. The sadness in her small frame was overwhelming. In the end, I went to the performance alone. "Mia, you were amazing. All that practice really paid off." "Thanks, Grandma." Mia smiled as she said those words, but there was a lingering sadness in her eyes. I couldn't help but wonder what I could possibly do for her. No matter how many comforting words I tried to offer, I couldn't seem to bring any light back into her eyes. There are some things that only a mom or dad can provide, things I simply couldn't fulfill. A wave of helplessness swept over me. After that, she gradually stopped talking to Jack. Of course, Jack never made any effort to talk to me either. The distance between them only grew deeper. Then, a few years ago, Jack suddenly took a job in another city. He rarely came home after that. Even during Christmas, it wasn't certain whether he'd come back. Because of that, we handled everything together. Not just family outings like summer camps or winter ski trips, sports days, music recitals, open house events, and parent-teacher conferences. I attended every single school event for Mia. I was the only grandma there, surrounded by polished moms. I sometimes worried if Mia ever felt embarrassed because of that. Those doubts crept into my mind from time to time, but she never showed any signs of displeasure. She always kept a smile on her face. "Grandma, let me cook dinner tonight. Your back hurts, doesn't it? Just sit down and relax." She was so thoughtful, always taking the initiative to help with chores. Raising such a kind-hearted young girl filled me with pride and joy. But that fragile happiness came crashing down one day. It was shortly after Mia started high school, on a quiet weekend afternoon. Her club practice had ended in the morning, and we were enjoying a peaceful afternoon together. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, I saw Jack standing there. Jack. Yes, it was Jack, who had been practically out of touch since his transfer, and standing next to him was a flashy woman. Her brightly dyed hair was perfectly curled, and she wore a short skirt that showed off her thighs. Her nails were intricately painted. She had bright red lipstick and heavy false eyelashes. At first glance, she looked like she might be in her early 20s. But upon closer inspection, she seemed to be around 35. Jack then said something that left both Mia and me stunned. "I'm getting married to her." We were speechless. It had been 8 years since Jack became single. Sure, it wasn't surprising for him to have found a new partner, but with a child, this wasn't the same as single life. Shouldn't Mia's needs come first? Mia clearly had no idea about this and looked completely shocked. "Samantha," Jack said casually, "and this is my mom and my daughter, Mia. Nice to meet you." Samantha, the woman in question, lazily flicked her nails and didn't even bother to make eye contact with us. "Mia, here's your new mom. Isn't that great?" Jack said as he patted Mia's head, but her face was stiff with discomfort. "Come on in. Starting today, this is your home. Make yourself comfortable." Without waiting for us to respond, Jack let Samantha into the house. Several suitcases, presumably Samantha's, were carried inside as well. From that day forward, Jack and Samantha started living in our home. Apparently, they got married the next day. Jack already had his own bedroom, which had remained unchanged even during his time away for work. However, the room was too small and cluttered with his belongings. making it impossible for two people to share. There were a few unused rooms in the house that had been turned into storage. Naturally, we assumed Samantha would use one of those. But, are you kidding me? This room is way too small. My clothes and shoes won't fit. You're right, Jack agreed. Hey, Mia, your room is big, isn't it? Why don't you let Samantha use it instead? You're in high school. You don't need that much stuff, right? Triggered by Samantha's complaint, Jack began pressuring Mia to give up her room. What? No way. Mia had been using that room since she was a child. It was a space filled with memories of her and her real mom. Before her mom passed away, they used to sleep there together every night. The walls were decorated with photos from when she was little. Her desk, bed, and equipment for her club activities were all in that room. There was no way all of it could fit into one of the smaller rooms. Her refusal was perfectly reasonable. When Mia said no, Jack didn't push further, and I thought he had dropped the matter. But to my horror, the next day when I returned from my part-time job, all of Mia's belongings had been moved out of her room. The cherished photos had been carelessly ripped from the walls, some even slightly torn. Jack, what are you doing? I exclaimed. Isn't it obvious? We're making this Samantha's room. Perfect timing. Can you help move Mia's stuff into one of the other rooms? Jack showed no remorse as he and Samantha continued moving furniture and belongings into the room. I tried to stop them, but by then, all the large furniture had already been moved, and there was nothing I could do alone. That evening, Mia returned home holding one of the torn photos in her hand, visibly shaken. Why, I said no. This room is full of memories of my mom. It was the first time I had seen Mia express such raw emotion. But shockingly, Jack scolded her instead. Mia, stop being so selfish. Your old mom isn't here anymore. Do you even know how many years it's been? Samantha is your mom now. How can you say that? I only have one mom. Mia's eyes brimmed with tears as she clenched her fists, desperately fighting back. After years of being neglected by her dad, she was suddenly expected to accept a stranger as her mom. There was no way she could do that. Watching Mia cry, I thought surely this would make Jack realize his mistake. But Jack was cruel. Do you even know who's paying for this house? If you don't like it, leave. Mia froze, unable to respond, standing there in stunned silence. I noticed Samantha smirking smugly, clearly pleased with how things were unfolding. This was just the beginning of the conflicts with Samantha. Within days of moving in, frustrations began piling up. Samantha didn't do any housework or have a job. She'd wake up around noon, sprawl on the living room couch, and spend her time playing on her smartphone or watching TV. I don't know what she does while I'm at my part-time job. She's probably spending her time the same way. I end up making dinner because I have no choice, but of course, she doesn't lift a finger to help. She doesn't even set the table, let alone cook. But isn't this kind of bland? Are you cutting back on salt because of high blood pressure? It feels like I'm visiting some grandma's house in the countryside. The colors are so dull. And yet, despite doing nothing, she has plenty of complaints. Of course, she doesn't do the dishes either. After her shower, she sits back, satisfied, scrolling through her smartphone or watching TV. Sometimes, she'd get dressed up and go out, and on other nights, she'd stay home, talking loudly on the phone late into the night. Then, she'd finally go to bed at dawn. With her selfish lifestyle, she barely interacted with us. It was clear Samantha had no intention of becoming part of our family, but still, she was Jack's choice. There had to be something good about her. If she was getting along with Mia, that was all that mattered. It's fine as long as I'm the one who has to endure it. That's what I kept telling myself. But of course, things weren't going well between Mia and me either. Mia, hand wash my sweater, okay? It was expensive, so don't stretch it out, or I won't forgive you. And fold the laundry properly this time. She constantly criticized Mia for the laundry, which Mia was already handling. Whenever Mia tried to respond, Samantha would snap back. What? Are you saying you can't listen to your mom? How disrespectful. She shut Mia down every time. This wasn't a mother-daughter relationship. It was more like master and servant. Over time, Mia stopped arguing back and simply did whatever Samantha demanded. See, you can do it if you try. You should have done it right from the start, Samantha would gloat, looking smug. Watching this unfold every day, I couldn't stay silent any longer. Samantha, Mia is still in high school. She has school and works hard with her club team. If you're going to complain so much, why don't you do it yourself? Yay, I got it, Samantha replied dismissively, pouting in an exaggerated way. It was obvious she had no intention of listening to me. A few days later, around the time Mia's school was on a long holiday break, I came home from my part-time job after stopping by the supermarket. There, I saw Mia waiting for me. Apparently, her club practice had finished early that day. I saw you going into the supermarket, Grandma. I wanted to catch you because it's been so long since we've had time to talk. Just the two of us, she said with a smile. When was the last time we walked home together like this? What's for dinner tonight? Meatloaf. The meat was on sale. Wow, awesome. We talked about her club team, her homework, and her plans to hang out with friends while walking home. I happened to glance down and saw her shadow stretched out on the ground. She's so much taller than me now. It reminded me of when she was in elementary school, and we used to compare shadows to see who was taller. It's been so long since I felt this kind of peace. When we got home, I saw Samantha's shoes at the entrance. Weren't they supposed to be out all day? Looks like they're already back. When the two of them were home, I'd instinctively quiet down, trying to avoid any complaints. As we walked past the hallway near the living room, I heard their voices. I reached out to open the door, but stopped when I caught part of their conversation. I couldn't hear clearly, but I focused on the snippets of words I could make out. Mia was listening just as intently. What? No way. That can't be. Understanding what they were talking about sent a chill through both of us. We knew this wasn't good. We had to leave the house right away. Quietly, we packed our belongings, doing our best to make no noise, and slipped out of the house. A few hours later, we found ourselves on a bus heading to my daughter Lily's home. Mom, Mia, what's going on? Lily looked utterly surprised by our sudden arrival. Of course, she was. It wasn't every day that we appeared at her home, 2 hours away by bus, without any notice. I explained everything to Lily. I told her about Mia and Jack's strained relationship after Mia's real mom passed away. I described Jack's behavior since I started living with them. And then there was Samantha, who had suddenly entered our lives. I explained what Samantha and Jack had done to Mia. I also told them about the shocking conversation Mia and I had overheard just a few hours earlier at home. Lily and her husband Daniel were left speechless. For now, you two should stay here for a while, Lily said decisively. Right, Daniel. Of course, Daniel agreed. Make yourselves comfortable. I felt a wave of relief as Daniel's permission eased my worries. But just then, Mia's smartphone rang. Her shoulders trembled as she stared at the screen. When she saw who was calling, she covered her face with her hands, her whole body shaking. I immediately began rubbing her back, trying to calm her down. After a while, The sound of her phone stopped. A few minutes later, my own smartphone started ringing. When I looked at the screen, it displayed Jack. I took a deep breath and swiped to answer the call. "Hey, Mom, where are you? I just got home, and nobody is here." His voice didn't sound angry, which gave me some relief. It seemed he hadn't realized we overheard their conversation. "Lily called me out of the blue and insisted we visit," I said. "Me and I came over since it's the start of a long break. We'll stay here for a few days. You and Samantha should enjoy some quiet time together." "Lily's always so spontaneous," Jack muttered with a sigh. "Fine. Just let me know when you're coming back." With that, the call ended, and I felt a small sense of relief. It seemed we had successfully covered our tracks. When I explained the phone call to Mia, she appeared a little more at ease. For the next few days, we stayed at Lily's house. Both Lily and Daniel were incredibly kind and accommodating. "Natalie, this is absolutely delicious," Daniel exclaimed during one dinner. "It really is. You have to give me the recipe later," Lily added enthusiastically. It had been a long time since I'd been so genuinely praised by someone other than Mia, and it felt good. However, Mia still seemed uneasy. When she was chatting and laughing with Lily and Daniel, she appeared brighter than she had been at home lately. But in quieter moments, her restlessness showed. After hearing that conversation, it was no surprise. I felt the same way. I wished it had all been a bad dream. Even though I'd heard it with my own ears, I found myself doubting whether it had truly happened. I couldn't fathom how anyone could think of something so horrifying. How many times had I thought that? But this was reality. As much as I wanted to run away, I knew I had to stay strong for Mia. I vowed to protect her, no matter what. That was the promise I made to myself. One day, as we continued living like this, "Natalie, everything is ready," he said. Daniel looked at me with a serious expression. It was the signal to begin a certain plan. I took a deep breath, then pulled out my smartphone and made a call. The person on the other end of the line was Jack. "Hi, Jack. We've had a relaxing time at Lily's, and I think it's time for us to head back. Would it be all right if we took the bus back tomorrow morning?" "Sure. Both of you, be safe. Samantha and I will have dinner ready when you get here," Jack replied, sounding unusually cheerful. It was strange. Jack never said anything that sounded considerate or offered to prepare a meal. That night, I found myself questioning everything over and over again. Was this really the right thing to do? Was I just acting out of self-satisfaction? I stroked Mia's hair as she slept peacefully beside me. She had grown so much, yet her sleeping face looked just like it did when she was a little girl. Memories of our time together came flooding back. Since we started living together when she was 8, I had been there for every step of her growth. It was like raising a second child. She was truly precious, like my own daughter. But could I really endanger someone so dear to me? I was deeply conflicted. Yet, this plan wasn't just mine, it was something she herself had agreed to. Together, we were determined to see it through. With that resolve, I closed my eyes and drifted into a restless sleep. The next morning arrived. "We're really doing this, aren't we?" "Yes. At this point, we have no other choice." With concerned expressions, Lily and Daniel saw us off as Mia and I boarded the bus. As we neared the bus stop closest to home, my nerves grew more intense. Mia, sitting next to me, seemed just as uneasy. She held her smartphone as if reading, but she hadn't turned a page in ages. Before long, we arrived at the bus stop. We got off and began walking toward the house, our steps heavy with apprehension. I wished we could just keep walking and never reach the house. That thought crossed my mind for a fleeting moment. In truth, I wanted to turn around, get back on the bus with her, and return to Lily's house right away. My desire to avoid going back clashed with the reality that we had to face it. Mia, lost in thought, walked with her head down. Before we knew it, we were standing in front of the house. As we opened the door, a delicious aroma wafted out. "Welcome back. It's been hot outside, hasn't it? Are you okay?" Jack greeted us warmly, a tone I wasn't used to hearing. In the living room, Samantha stood wearing an apron, a rare sight. "Welcome home. I'm so happy you're back. I made lots of food to celebrate. I'm sorry for being so selfish before," she said with an exaggerated smile. Behind her, the dining table was covered with dishes: chicken, potatoes, paella, pizza, salad, and soup. The variety was striking, and they were all things Mia and I loved. I glanced at Mia, and she looked back at me. We exchanged a small nod, careful not to let Jack or Samantha notice. "Come on, let's eat before it gets cold," Samantha urged. "Hey, Mia, you love chicken, don't you? Dig in," Jack added with an eager smile, practically forcing us into our chairs. "Actually, we ate on the bus earlier," I said casually. "Mia, are you hungry?" "Not really," Mia replied softly. "Me neither. I think I'll unpack first," I said, standing up. Jack immediately blocked my way. "You can do that later. Eat while it's warm." It'd be rude to Samantha after all the effort she put into cooking. Their irritation was evident as Mia and I continued to resist. "Hey, I worked really hard on this. At least take one bite." "Come on, try it already." Samantha finally lost her patience and raised her voice. As she spoke, she scooped up some paella with a spoon and shoved it toward me. It looked like she was about to force it into my mouth. At that moment, I heard the sound of the front door opening, followed by footsteps. Then the living room door burst open, and Daniel walked in. "I've heard everything," he said firmly. He held his smartphone up high, the screen facing us. On it, I saw Mia's name and the words "call in progress." Unbeknownst to Jack and Samantha, Daniel had been listening in on the conversation through Mia's phone. This all started the day Mia and I overheard Jack and Samantha's chilling conversation. "They're allergic to sesame, right? What if we just mix a ton of sesame into their food? That should trigger anaphylactic shock." "That's perfect. If it's Samantha, she can just play dumb and say she didn't know. Then we'll finally be free." They had been plotting to get rid of Mia and me. After Samantha moved in, I had explained our sesame allergies to her in detail. I told her that even small amounts in sauces or processed foods had to be avoided. I also made it clear that consuming sesame in large amounts could cause anaphylactic shock, which could be fatal. They had twisted that knowledge into a horrifying plan. After overhearing that conversation, I knew we couldn't stay in that house any longer. That was why we had rushed to Lily's house that night. The reason we went to Lily's house instead of staying at a nearby hotel was simple. Daniel is an active police officer, although his jurisdiction didn't cover our area due to the distance. We had no one else to turn to. When Mia played the recording of Jack and Samantha's conversation, Daniel was left speechless. "No way," he muttered. Lily, too, couldn't hide her shock. After listening to our story and considering the recording, Daniel concluded that this situation could involve criminal intent. He then initiated his own investigation. What he discovered left us stunned. Samantha had consulted with an insurance company about collecting potential payouts. Jack had disposed of Mia's emergency injection pen, an essential tool for people with severe allergies, to prevent anaphylactic shock. Throwing away such critical medicine was horrifying and inhuman. The thought of disposing of such vital medicine was horrifying. It was something no sane person would ever do. Although Daniel was able to gather corroborating evidence quickly, it wasn't enough to justify an arrest just yet. Still, Daniel persevered, enlisting the help of his colleagues and conducting a thorough investigation. Eventually, he uncovered text messages between Jack and Samantha, in which they discussed the details of their plan. To obtain even more definitive evidence, Daniel proposed that Mia and I return home. Of course, even knowing the plan in advance, it came with inherent risks, but to protect Mia, I knew I had to do it. Following Daniel's advice, I made the difficult decision to go back home for the sake of the plan. But I'll go alone. Mia should stay here. Without her injection pen, it's too dangerous. I naturally intended to return by myself. I was determined to face the danger alone. I didn't want Mia involved any further. But Mia refused. No, Grandma, I want to protect you too. Besides, if I'm not there, they might change their plan. She looked straight into my eyes, her gaze unwavering. When did she become so strong? I couldn't disregard her determination. She also had a point. If Jack and Samantha were targeting both of us, they might alter their plan if I returned alone. This time, we know their plan, so we can prepare countermeasures in advance. But if they tried the same thing without us knowing, would we even realize it in time? That would be even more dangerous. In the end, we agreed that Mia would come with me, on the condition that she avoid unnecessary risks. Which brings us to the scene before us now, a table full of food. Samantha thought she had cleverly hidden the sesame seeds, but they were visible in places on the plates, sprinkled on some dishes. Whether it was due to her lack of cooking skills or simple carelessness, the plan was sloppy. Still, the amount of sesame likely laced throughout the dishes was alarming. When I first heard of their plan, I desperately hoped it wasn't true. Could my own son really do something so horrifying? I thought perhaps we had overreacted to an offhanded comment. Up until I saw that dish, part of me still held on to some hope, but that hope was swiftly shattered. I never wanted Mia to witness something like this. The idea that Dad could do such a thing, her shock must be unimaginable. While I stood there in disbelief, Lily, along with Daniel, gently led me outside. Afterward, Daniel searched the house thoroughly and found gasoline, a blowtorch, and rolls of duct tape in the storage room. Clearly, these were tools prepared to cover up any evidence after we suffered anaphylactic shock from the sesame. This conduct potentially constitutes assault. We'll need to bring you to the station for questioning. I only did it because he told me to. This is all his fault. Samantha desperately shouted, pointing a trembling finger at Jack in a frantic attempt to defend herself. But Jack didn't say a word. He just slumped to the ground, silent and motionless. Moments later, the officers Daniel had called escorted both of them out of the house. As soon as they were gone, the tension that had held me upright snapped. I collapsed onto the sofa, drained of all energy. I never imagined my life would be in danger, especially from my own son. For Mia, it was her father. For me, it was Jack. We were supposed to be an ordinary family. Where did it all go so wrong? With my head hanging low, I bit my lower lip hard, trying to hold back the whirlwind of emotions. I hadn't realized I was trembling until Lily wrapped her arms around me gently. Mom, it's okay now. The strength in her embrace was the only thing keeping me together in that moment. Later, Jack and Samantha were questioned by the police. From what we learned, their motive was money. They were after my inheritance, my life insurance policy, and the savings Mia's biological mom had left behind. All of it had fueled their horrific plan. And then, an even more shocking truth came to light. It turned out that Samantha had married Jack solely for his money. She had been obsessed with nightclubs for years, spending extravagantly on her favorite male companions. Since she had only worked part-time, her income wasn't enough to support her lavish lifestyle. She had found several men willing to support her financially, even resorting to illegal activities in the process. Among them, she set her sights on Jack as her primary target, eventually leading to their marriage. Jack had no idea that she was obsessed with nightclubs and spent her time and money there. As part of their marriage agreement, Jack gave Samantha more than $3,000 a month and allowed her to avoid any housework or job responsibilities. No wonder she didn't do any chores or work when Samantha occasionally went out at night. It turned out she was heading to those very nightclubs. All the questions and doubts I'd had about her behavior started clicking into place, like pieces of a puzzle. It was clear just how deeply Jack had fallen for Samantha. However, when news of the situation reached Jack's workplace, it didn't take long for him to be fired. "You've been spending my money on other men. What the hell you're doing?" "Excuse me, I married you, didn't I? That means I can spend the money however I like. Wasn't that part of the deal? And if you're broke now, you're useless to me." The two had a massive argument, and soon after, they divorced. The incident quickly became a hot topic in our small town. Neighbors would often approach me, saying things like, "You've really been through a lot, haven't you?" Although some of the gossip was exaggerated or completely false, I decided to let it go. In such a small town, it was clear that they wouldn't have much of a future here. As for Mia and me, even though we'd done nothing wrong, the widespread rumors made it increasingly difficult to go about our daily lives. So we decided to make a fresh start and move closer to Lily's house. "Mia, you'll have to change schools. Are you okay with that?" I knew how sensitive kids her age could be to change. If Mia didn't want to move, I wouldn't force her. But Mia gave me a brave smile and said, "It's fine. Being near Dad scares me more. I'll be okay anywhere." Her resilience filled me with warmth. Just before the end of the school break, we moved to our new town. I worried whether Mia would be able to adjust to her new high school. What if she didn't make friends? Would we end up regretting the move? But to my relief, Mia quickly made friends and settled in. She even told me excitedly about meeting another girl who had also been raised by her grandma, just like her. She joined a club team and seemed genuinely happy with her new life. One day, Daniel came to me with a suggestion. "Natalie, have you thought about adopting Mia? I think it would be a good step for both of you moving forward." "That's a wonderful idea," Lily chimed in with enthusiasm. But I hesitated. Adopting Mia would make her officially my daughter. I'd love nothing more, as I already cherished her as if she were my own. But I couldn't help wondering if Mia would feel the same. She only has one biological mom. Wouldn't it be arrogant of me to try to take on that role? Perhaps it would be better for us to remain as we are now, without altering our relationship. But then, Mia, who was sitting beside me, gave a shy little smile. "I think it's a great idea. Grandma, you've already been like a mom to me." Her words filled me with an overwhelming warmth. "Really? You mean that? Then I want to be your mom, Mia." I smiled through the tears I was holding back and gently took her hand. Her hand, now bigger than mine, felt as if it was softly embracing my heart. About a month later, the paperwork was finalized, and we officially became mother and daughter. Since the incident, Mia has grown even kinder and stronger. Recently, she's expressed her dream of becoming a police officer. "I want to protect people like you and me, Grandma. I want to be an officer like Daniel." Her determination shone brightly and I couldn't help but feel proud. Grandma, do you want some help with dinner tonight? That's sweet of you, but don't you have homework? Go finish that first. I want to be the strength that helps her move forward. When I imagine her working toward her dreams, it fills me with a quiet joy. When the day comes that she achieves those dreams, I know I'll send her off with pride, my heart swelling with happiness. Until then, I'll do everything I can to support her. With that thought, I stirred the pot on the stove, feeling a renewed sense of purpose.
Hurry up and open it. It's heavy. Sharon dropped the garbage bag at the entrance and bent over, trying to catch her breath. If it's that hard for you, you don't have to bring it all the way here. When I said that, Sharon gave me a haughty look. Disposing of trash costs money. If I can get rid of it at your place, it's cheaper. If you want me to take it back, just give it to me. Here. She thrust her hand forward, gesturing impatiently. I tried desperately to lift the garbage bag, but my restricted body couldn't manage it. Only a groan of frustration escaped my lips. Sharon just watched me with a smirk. At this rate, it'll take you all night. I'm leaving now. This is a waste of time. With that, Sharon left me standing there. I was at a loss, realizing I couldn't move the garbage bag from the entrance. If it stayed there, it would be in the way, and I wouldn't be able to get outside. I put all my strength into moving the bag with both arms. Finally, it moved a little. Feeling a glimmer of hope, I pulled harder, but the bag, already heavy, scraped against the floor and tore open. Caught off guard, I banged my arm hard against the cupboard. Ouch! I've had enough! Clutching my arm, I looked at the garbage spilled all over the entrance. I realized I could have just divided the contents into smaller bags instead of dragging the whole thing. As I began picking up the trash, I noticed something strange. Could it be? Seeing what was in the bag, I understood Sharon's true intention. Tears began to flow from my eyes naturally. My name is Verity. Now, I am sitting at a desk in a dim room at dusk, making handmade jewelry. The only sounds are the tinkling of the jewelry and the ticking of the clock. Outside, I can faintly hear the cheerful voices of children playing. That's enough for today. Though the work was not finished, my eyes were blurred, and my fingers wouldn't move as they should. If I push myself too hard, I'll make mistakes and have to start over. So, even if I feel I can do more, it's wise to stop. When I put down the tools, I realized for the first time that the room had gotten dark. Oh, it's already this late. I muttered, knowing no one in the house would respond. Feeling a slight loneliness, I maneuvered my wheelchair to turn on the light switch. As the room lit up, I saw the black garbage bags piled in the corner. But I didn't want to look at them. What should I make for dinner tonight? Quickly putting away my tools, I went to the kitchen to start preparing dinner. Outside, I could still hear the children's cheerful voices. As I chopped vegetables, tears suddenly fell from my eyes. Why do I have to live such a miserable life? As I thought this, the tears wouldn't stop, falling onto the cabbage on the cutting board. My current condition is due to a car accident over 20 years ago. Since then, I've been in and out of hospitals, living in a wheelchair. Because of that, I couldn't take proper care of my son, Zeph. My husband, Jake, tried his best, but he was busy with work, so Zeph was often left alone. I can never forget the sight of him, a little boy, sitting forlornly in the middle of a dark room when Jake and I came home late at night. I truly feel sorry for Zeph. The emotional scars he suffered greatly affected our lives. He had become a delinquent. He ignored both Jake and me, constantly fighting with his classmates, leading to repeated calls from the school. Still, I tried to stay positive, hoping that one day I could reconcile with Zeph. To help supplement Jake's income, I started making jewelry from home. However, Zeph not only didn't reform, but he also started demanding money and even became physically abusive towards me. Jake's collapse was likely due to the stress from work and family. Despite everything, he was always worried about Zeph, right up until he was gone. Perhaps feeling some sense of responsibility, Zeph married his girlfriend Sharon and moved out soon after. All I was left with was an overly spacious house and my jewelry making. I occasionally sold them at flea markets, which allowed me to interact with the neighbors. Talking to people only happened during those moments. As I reminisced and cried about the past, the doorbell rang. Given the time, it had to be her. I quickly wiped my tears and hurried to the door as fast as I could. However, the person on the other side was impatiently knocking. "Hold on a minute. I'm opening it now." As soon as I unlocked the door, my son's wife, Sharon, barged in with an angry huff. She was wearing a suit, likely coming straight from work, and was holding a black garbage bag in her hand. The bag seemed full, its opening tightly secured. "Why didn't you open the door sooner? You're so slow." Immediately upon entering, Sharon started yelling at me, her face flushed with anger. "I'm not here for fun, you know. I have to check on Verity, so I came. I'm sorry, but it's hard to move quickly in a wheelchair." "Stop making excuses. It's your lack of exercise. Here, take this garbage out. It'll be good exercise for you." With that, she attempted to throw the garbage bag into the room. "Please stop. It's really difficult with my legs like this. The house will be buried in garbage at this rate." Desperately, I stretched out my arms to stop her from throwing the bag. But despite my efforts, the bag left her hand, arcing through the air before hitting the floor. Why would she do something so cruel? Tears I thought I had wiped away started to fall again, but I kept my head down, not wanting Sharon to see. Sharon bent down. "Crying won't get you any help. You're not a child, so pull yourself together," and whispered. I gritted my teeth in frustration, but with my physical limitations, I couldn't fight back. Sharon knew this too well. She laughed mockingly and patted my shoulder in a seemingly friendly manner. "You probably don't have anything to offer since you're so slow. It's boring here, so I'm leaving." She opened the door to leave but suddenly turned back, looking at me seriously. "I'll be back. That garbage isn't sorted, so make sure Verity does it. Otherwise, you'll get in trouble, understand?" I was too angry to respond. As soon as the door closed, I quickly locked it. Since Jake passed away, Sharon has been coming to my house every day. It's not out of kindness to check on me. She comes to hurl insults and, lately, to throw garbage at me. I don't know what's in those bags, but they're heavy, and I can't bring myself to take them outside. Picking up the bag from the floor, I added it to the pile in the corner of the room. At this point, I didn't care about anything anymore. If I was going to spend my old age in loneliness, I might as well be buried in garbage and leave this world. After I'm gone, the neighbors will be shocked to see this mess. And Sharon's actions will be exposed. For me, it was the only way to resist, and in a way, it had become something I looked forward to. Why did he marry such a woman? Still, my frustration wouldn't go away, so I decided to call Zeph. I'll get him to talk to Sharon. Luckily, Zeph answered right away. "What's up? Are you feeling sick or something?" "No, it's not that. Sharon's been awful to me again." Then, I started detailing everything that had happened. But he didn't listen to the end. I was still talking. "You're going on and on. Basically, you don't like Sharon, right? Just say that from the start instead of rambling. When he interrupted roughly. Why are you being so mean? I'm having a hard time too. Your hard time isn't my problem. Sharon treats me well. You must have done something to piss her off, right? I didn't do anything. Don't just make stuff up. I knew my voice was turning tearful in my desperation. I had no one else to rely on, so I wanted Zeph to be my only ally. However, from his past experiences, Zeph didn't see me as his mother. He probably thought it was too convenient for me to cry to him now. But even though Sharon's actions troubled me deeply, he wouldn't even listen. Anyway, I'm busy. You must have too much time on your hands, bothering Sharon. Reflect on your own behavior before complaining to me. That's so cruel, so unfair. What's so unfair? You never cared about me, only yourself. Serves you right. Then Zeph laughed loudly. His laugh pierced my ears like sharp nails. After laughing for a while, he hung up. The room was already enveloped in the darkness of night. I need to turn on the lights, I need to make dinner. I thought this in my head, but Zeph's words and Sharon's actions hurt so much that I couldn't bring myself to do anything. I'd rather. Just as I thought that, a sharp pain shot through my chest as if my throat was closing up. I must stop thinking such foolish thoughts. I maneuvered my wheelchair to turn on the lights, plated the chopped cabbage, and heated up frozen fried chicken to place beside it. No matter how hard it is, no matter the cruel words thrown at me, I have to live. A few days passed after that. Sharon continued to come at the same time, saying nasty things and throwing trash bags into my room. I silently piled them in the corner, but it seemed they had reached their limit. Some of the pile had collapsed, starting to take over the room. I had stubbornly refused to throw out the trash, but now that the room was filling up, the disgust was winning. Apparently, a neighbor had seen Sharon's behavior. When I was outside, they approached and gently rubbed my back. I know you've been spoken to harshly. I didn't want to interfere, but if you need anything, please tell me. Thank you. I might ask for help someday. After that conversation, I parted ways with my neighbor, but I was genuinely happy. I had believed that I had no one on my side. Feeling a bit more confident, I decided to ask Sharon to take her trash back. Around 6 p.m., Sharon arrived at my house. As usual, she was dressed in her suit, but the garbage bag she was holding was much larger than usual. It seemed she had a hard time bringing it over, as her face was red and she was breathing heavily. Hurry up and open it, it's heavy. Sharon dropped the garbage bag at the entrance and bent over to catch her breath. If it's that hard, you didn't have to bring it over. When I said that, Sharon glared at me from beneath her brows. You don't get it. It costs money to dispose of trash. If I can get rid of it at Verity's place, it saves money. My house isn't a dump. Take it back. I tried to lift the garbage bag off the floor, but it was too heavy to move. What's inside this? It won't budge at all. I tried to pull it, but my frail body couldn't manage it. If you really want me to take it back, hand it over. Come on. Sharon reached out her hand and moved it impatiently. I struggled to lift the garbage bag, but my weak body couldn't do it. Only a helpless groan escaped my mouth. Sharon just watched and laughed at my efforts. Looks like it would take all night. I'm leaving. This is a waste of my time. With that, Sharon left, leaving me with the garbage bag I couldn't move. I was at a loss, unable to move the bag from the entrance. If it stayed there, it would block my way out. What if there was a fire? I wouldn't be able to escape. Desperately, I put all my strength into moving the garbage bag. Finally, it moved a little. Seeing a glimmer of hope, I pulled the bag harder, but the combination of its weight and the friction against the floor caused the bag to tear. Unexpectedly, I ended up hitting my arm hard against the cabinet. Ouch, I hate this. Holding my arm, I looked at the contents scattered across the entrance. Why didn't I think to just take out the items one by one? As I picked up the trash, I noticed something strange. No way, is this? I picked it up and found it was a retort pouch of curry. And the pouch wasn't even opened. What does this mean? Did Sharon put this in the garbage by mistake? I was engrossed as I tore the bag open to check the contents. It wasn't just curry, there were pasta ingredients and retort foods stuffed inside. No, it wasn't just retort foods, there were also dried pasta, canned fish, and even cash wrapped in a plastic bag. Why are these things in here? Leaving the bag at the entrance, I went back inside and opened the piled-up garbage bags one by one. Sure enough, there was no garbage at all. All of them were filled with retort foods, canned goods, non-perishable foods, and cash. I stood there, bewildered, not understanding what was happening. With all the bags containing the same things, it couldn't be a mistake. But why did she choose such a roundabout way to hand it over? I would have to ask her directly to understand. I cleaned up the scattered items in the entrance and waited for the next day to come. And indeed, Sharon came at the same time the next day. I made no mention of it and simply motioned for her to come into the room. Sharon hesitated for a moment, lowering her eyes, but then quickly looked up and followed me into the room. She looked around the piles of garbage bags in the room with a blank expression. Did you really think it was all garbage and never looked inside? I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were trying to help me. Sharon said nothing, just looked at me, then suddenly twisted her face and covered it with both hands, starting to cry. Verity, I'm so sorry for saying such terrible things. It's okay. You must have your reasons, right? Tell me everything. With tears, Sharon began to explain. Actually, all of this was under his orders. Zeph's? Why would he do such a thing? It was true Zeph hated me, but I couldn't believe he would go this far. Zeph is in financial trouble. In financial trouble? That can't be true. I found it hard to believe Zeph was struggling financially. When Jake passed away, he left a significant inheritance. Zeph had received the majority of that inheritance. I, too, had hoped to rely on that inheritance due to my physical limitations. But because I felt guilty for leaving him lonely, I didn't complain about Zeph taking the inheritance. Yet, the idea that it wasn't enough seemed strange. When I pointed this out to Sharon, she hung her head. It's for business. Zeph started a cafe to launch his business. I hadn't heard about it, but apparently, Zeph had started a business a few years ago. With his charming exterior, he managed to get approvals from officials and banks to open the shop. But things didn't go as planned, and the business failed. Zeph, now deep in debt, turned his eyes to my inheritance. I refused at first. Yes, I had heard about you from Zeph. I knew he hated you. But I couldn't bring myself to do something so cruel to someone with disabilities. Sharon sat on the floor, hugging herself as if to shield herself from the world. Yet you had no choice but to do it. Sharon nodded and lifted her shirt to show her bare back. Seeing it made me gasp. There were painful-looking bruises clearly visible. He pretends to be kind when talking to people outside, but he was cruel to me. Sharon put her shirt back down. He didn't trust me either. He ordered me to document everything I did to you. And still, You resisted by mixing in not garbage, but ready-to-eat meals. Sharon shook her head sadly at my words. That's part of it, but there's more. Zeph is using me to corner you. But he's not directly involved. If anything happens, I'll be the one blamed. Sharon continued, scratching her head in frustration. So it was my insurance. I thought if I insisted it was food and not garbage, my punishment would be lighter. So I didn't mind if you threw it away. But why are you telling me the truth now? A neighbor almost called the police. So I realized this was pointless. But Zeph is also scary, and I don't know what to do. Sharon didn't seem to be lying. She seemed genuinely distressed, scratching her hair roughly. Seeing that, a fierce anger rose within me. I don't mind if Zeph hates me, and if it costs me my life, so be it. He can use my inheritance to pay off his debts or invest in his business as he pleases. If that satisfies Zeph, I can say I've fulfilled my duty as a parent. There isn't much more I can do for my son. However, I cannot forgive him for resorting to violence against his wife, Sharon, to implicate her in his own sins. I held Sharon's hand. Sharon, thank you for telling me. Let's stop Zeph together. But Verity, what can we do? Don't worry, I have a plan. With that, I immediately began preparations to help Sharon. First, I spoke to the neighbors to explain the situation and our upcoming act. I wanted to ensure they wouldn't be alarmed by any loud noises. Next, Sharon and I planned for her to film me while she hurled insults at me. Verity, here we go. With those words, Sharon threw a trash bag at me. Take that! Stop it, don't! We changed outfits to film multiple scenarios without Zeph noticing. It was surprisingly fun, and we ended up with more vivid footage than expected. Do you think this is enough? Sharon, could you also film Zeph harassing you? Sharon, seemingly enjoying herself, smiled broadly and agreed enthusiastically. Hidden camera work, got it. I'll handle it. Sharon returned to Zeph for now. Next, I decided to stage a desperate phone call to Zeph. I aimed to sound as distressed and at my limit as possible. Zeph, I can't take it anymore. Please help me. Of course, Zeph wouldn't genuinely be concerned. Each time he heard my anguished voice, he likely laughed at my suffering. After several fake calls, it was time for the final act. Zeph, I don't want to live anymore. This will be my last call. I'm sorry for everything. Even I was impressed by my own performance. Zeph seemed completely fooled by my act. He told Sharon, "That old woman won't last much longer. We'll finally get the inheritance." Naturally, Sharon recorded all of this. We successfully captured videos of him harassing her, securing all the evidence we needed. Sharon took the evidence and her essentials and sought refuge at my house. I had already informed her workplace of the situation, so Zeph's visit would be in vain. From my house, Sharon contacted a lawyer to file a complaint about Zeph's misconduct. A few days after filing the complaint, Zeph called me. As soon as I answered, "Hey! Do you know where Sharon went?" he barked. "Oh, Zeph! I don't want to live anymore." "Shut up. I don't care about you." "Where is Sharon?" "I don't know. I haven't seen her." It was clear over the phone that Zeph was frantic. "Don't play dumb. She must be with you. I'm coming over." About an hour later, Zeph actually showed up. From behind the door, he spoke in a suddenly gentle voice. "Mom, it's been a while. Let me in. I brought some treats. Let's eat together." He said that and showed a paper bag full of snacks to the monitor. A while ago, I might have believed him, but since I heard everything from Sharon, I knew his behavior was fake.
Sharon isn't here. Sorry, go home.
Not here? Then why doesn't Mom open the door? If she's not here, it's not a problem, right? Zeph kept talking in a gentlemanly manner. Indeed, his outward appearance seemed good.
That's not it. The room is messy, so I can't open it.
Then I'll clean it up. So open the door. No, I won't open it. Go home.
Hey, you old hag, enough already.
Because I firmly refused, Zeph showed his true colors.
You bastard, you have some nerve to defy me with that body. Prepare yourself.
Zeph lost his cool and started kicking the door with fierce force. The violent sound echoed through the room.
Open up! Open the door! You old hag!
The door was made of sturdy metal, so I didn't think it would open, but even so, Zeph's almost insane intensity was terrifying.
I'm scared. What if the door gets broken down?
Sharon had her hand on my shoulder, but I could feel she was trembling quite a bit. Sharon, call the police. Understood. While Sharon was calling the police, I spoke to Zeph.
Zeph, it's useless to do this, so stop.
However, my words no longer reached his ears. After a while, I heard shouting from outside, and the sound of kicking stopped. Looking through the monitor, I saw several neighbors gathering. Zeph, being restrained by men, seemed unable to resist.
Let go! Let go of me!
But soon the police arrived and arrested Zeph. After confirming that, Sharon and I went outside to face Zeph.
Hey, Mom. Tell these guys something.
Sorry, but everyone knows your true nature.
Give up. Don't be ridiculous. It's your fault. My life is ruined because of you.
Zeph was taken away without apologizing to Sharon till the end. The neighbors also comforted me with kind words.
Thank you, Verity.
Sharon said that too and gently held my hand. After that, Zeph faced the consequences of his actions. Someone had recorded the incident and uploaded the video to the internet. The image of Zeph kicking the door and shouting spread quickly on social media, revealing his true nature to everyone. Because of that, all the misdeeds he committed in his student days, the cleverly hidden blackmail and fraudulent acts, were all exposed. Naturally, he lost his credibility in the community, his business failed completely, and Zeph had to pay huge compensation and debt repayment. Adding to his woes, Sharon asked for a divorce. The evidence she collected was decisive, and he had to pay a large alimony. 3 days ago, Zeph contacted me, saying he would come to my house after losing everything. In the meantime, I made a plan to get Zeph back on his feet. Please, Mom, help me. Zeph, who came to my house, said that and apologized deeply in front of me many times. I'm really sorry. I have no one else to rely on but you, Mom. Please do something. I'm sorry, Zeph. As your mother, I want to help you. But I'm in this condition, and I don't have enough savings. So I talked to your uncle. At that point, I called out to the uncle who was waiting in the back room. The door opened vigorously, and from there came out a scary-looking man with a shaved head and sunglasses. This man was in the construction business.
He said he'd love to hire Zeph. Apparently, he was short-staffed.
He wasn't just there for the job, but also as a precaution, like a bodyguard in case anything went wrong. Zeph made a face and stepped back, clearly displeased with my suggestion. But then, my uncle walked over and grabbed him by the collar. Come on, let's go. Don't worry, my workplace is in the mountains. You'll stay in a dorm there. There's nothing else around, so you'll be able to pay off your debt quickly. Now, get up.
No, Mom!
Zeph reached out to me, but sadly, his hand couldn't reach. He was taken away by my uncle. As I watched them leave, Sharon came out of the room where my uncle had been. It's unfortunate, but it can't be helped. Yes, but I'm sure Zeph will manage somehow. Even though Sharon had divorced Zeph, she was actually an orphan with no family to turn to. Why don't you live with me? I suggested, and she gladly accepted. Oh my, it's already this late. Verity, you have your class, right? I'll drive you since I'm heading out to job hunt. Since that incident, I started talking more with the neighbors. In the course of these interactions, I was encouraged to start a handmade craft class. At first, I was confused, but having done it for years, I had become quite skilled without realizing it. Now, I teach many students, and my income has surpassed what I made doing side jobs.
All right, please do.
With Sharon pushing my wheelchair, we left the house. We walked slowly through the warm early summer light. There was a time when the future seemed uncertain, but now, my days are bright and joyful. One day, as I returned home from my usual night shift, I noticed that the house lights were on, which was unusual. Lately, my daughter Alethea would only come home when I wasn't there, so it was rare for us to be in the house together. When I opened the door and stepped inside, I saw Alethea rummaging through the closet.
Stop acting like a thief!
Maybe it was because I was tired from work, but those words came out before I could say welcome home to my daughter, whom I hadn't seen in a while.
What? This is my house, too. What's here is mine as well,
she said, holding a bank statement I had been saving in her name for years.
Wait a minute, that's something I've been saving carefully to give to you when you grow up. What are you planning to use it for?
When I asked her frantically, she replied indifferently, I'm getting married. I had so many questions. Who is he? Where did you meet him? Have you met his family? What about the wedding? But she wouldn't answer any of them.
You're an embarrassment. Don't come to the wedding. As far as anyone knows, my mom is out of the picture, divorced and gone.
With those final words, she left the house. Everything inside me crumbled. I had put her first, always, raising her on my own. My very existence was being denied. I was paralyzed in the middle of the room she had ransacked, but eventually, I realized I couldn't stay like this, and I made a phone call. Months passed, and today is her wedding day. I watched her from the shadows in her bridal gown. I never wanted to see her in such a beautiful dress like this. Today was the first time I saw the groom's face. An older, kind-looking man smiled at her. Are you ready for the plan? The woman next to me asked, and I nodded firmly. My name is Francis, and I'm 47 years old. I live alone in a cheap apartment. I used to live with my daughter Alethea, but she left months ago, and we haven't been in touch since. Even though I called her my daughter, we're not related by blood. She's the stepchild of my late husband, David, who I married after both of us had gone through divorces. David had divorced his first wife 3 years before we met because she cheated on him. In a furious custody battle, he won the right to raise Alethea. But the year after we married, he was diagnosed with cancer. Treat her like your own daughter. Be firm but kind. Those were his last words before he passed away. It's been 13 years since then. The only thing left was me and Alethea, who wasn't related to me by blood and who I'd known for less than a year. When Alethea was still in elementary school, I worked desperately to support her. I had children from my previous marriage. But we divorced due to irreconcilable differences. Without my parents' support and as a housewife, I found it hard to raise my children, and custody went to my ex-husband. But now, there was no one to protect her but me. Determined to raise a child properly this time, I didn't slack off on work or house chores. Meanwhile, Alethea barely reacted to me from the time David brought her to our home. I remember the first time I met Alethea, before David and I were married, when he invited me to his house. "Nice to meet you, Alethea." She was a bit younger than my children from my previous marriage. I crouched down to meet Alethea's gaze and spoke to her. However, she only briefly made eye contact before quickly returning to her play.
Alethea, this is the woman I told you about who's going to be your new mother.
Even though David said this, her attitude did not change. And that was understandable. A young girl, still in elementary school, suddenly loses her mother, and after a while, a new woman is introduced as her mother. It's natural for her to show some resistance. Moreover, after divorcing my ex-husband, I started working at a club. It was at that club where I met David. He came to the club where I was working as a customer and apparently fell in love with me at first sight. He started coming to the club regularly, but David was different from the other customers. He didn't cause any trouble with alcohol like the others, nor did he ever do anything unpleasant. David was always kind to me. Customers like this are rare, and as time went on, my initial wariness turned into a slight guilt for thinking, he's paying good money just to see me. So, one day, I decided to ask him directly.
I'm really glad you come here to see me, but are you having fun? You can enjoy yourself more freely, you know?
Even though I knew that saying something like this might mean he'd never come back, I couldn't help but ask.
No, I come here because I want to see you, Francis. Is that so bad?
David said this, his cheeks slightly blushing with embarrassment. I couldn't believe he was lying, and I was genuinely happy that he enjoyed our conversations so much. Gradually, I started looking forward to seeing David as a customer and eagerly awaited his visits to the club. Several months passed since he began visiting the club regularly.
I want to date you with marriage in mind.
One day, he came to the club as usual, but this time, he brought a bouquet of flowers and said those words. I was surprised by the sudden proposal, but that very day, I decided to quit the club. From the time he began visiting the club, we both knew about each other's past divorces, and I knew that David had taken custody of his daughter. I genuinely wanted to be a proper mother this time. That's the story of how we ended up together. I wasn't sure how much David had explained to Alethea or how much she understood, but I knew she probably didn't think well of me. Even though I had quit the club when we became a couple, club work was still club work. I had come to feel a sense of pride in my job, but I understood that most people wouldn't get it. Still, I wanted Alethea to gradually accept me as her mother, so I was determined to make an effort. However, 1 year later, David passed away. When he died, to support Alethea on my own, I returned to the club I had once quit. From then on, to solidify my resolve to be Alethea's mother, I started calling her Allie.
Allie. It's dinner time.
When I first called Alethea Allie, she looked surprised for a moment. But that was her only reaction, and my plan to get closer to her as a mother didn't seem to touch her heart. Alethea, who had already struggled to fit in at school, completely stopped attending after David's death. However, after starting junior high school, Alethea began to stay out all day and night, hanging out with friends I didn't know where she met. She never consulted me about anything. As her mother, I gently advised her that what she was doing wasn't good for her, but her resistance grew stronger, and it often turned into arguments. Whenever there was an opportunity, Alethea would say to me, "You're not my biological mother." Whenever she said that, I couldn't say anything more. Indeed, although I had officially become Alethea's mother, we still hadn't become a real family. David's death happened just when we were starting to slowly become a family of 3. Even I didn't know how to spend time with Alethea after suddenly becoming her sole caregiver. Even so, as I began to feel sad about her words, I thought that perhaps I was gradually becoming her mother in spirit. The time Alethea and I spent together at home gradually decreased. Even when she wasn't at home, I felt relieved if I saw signs that she had been there when I returned, thinking, at least she's alive and well today. However, most of the time when I came back from work, she wasn't home, and I often found that money had been taken from my wallet. Even though we are family, that's something I cannot tolerate. When Alethea was home, I gently told her,
"If you're in trouble, please talk to me. Don't just steal money from my wallet."
but she yelled, "Shut up," and ran out. At this point, I wondered if I would ever be able to build a good parent-child relationship with her. Just before she finished junior high school, there was a day when I came home earlier than usual. Since she was usually asleep at that time, I entered the house quietly. Today too, I quietly unlocked the door and entered the house, only to hear sobbing from the back room. Alethea was crying alone. Even when David died, Alethea never shed a tear in front of me, but now I realized for the first time that she cried alone where no one could see. I listened quietly, trying not to make a sound. Why did Mom leave me? Why did Dad have to die? The new mom didn't listen to me. Even though she rebelled against me, she was still a junior high school student. Both her parents were gone, and the only one left was a mother in name only, with no blood relation. Moreover, having that mother work at a club must have been unbearable. I realized too late what was truly important. I hadn't noticed the chance Alethea had given me. It was one holiday. Before Alethea left, she muttered softly, "Hey, Francis, why don't you quit working at the club?" It was the first time she had said anything about my job. At the time, I didn't understand why she said that. But now I understand. Alethea was giving me a chance to quit working at the club and become a normal parent. Yet
I can't quit because I need the money to raise you. Besides, I'm proud of this job now,"
responded. That night, Alethea didn't come home. She might have been crying somewhere. If I remember correctly, it was after that day that she started coming home less frequently. I had completely lost my qualifications as a mother at that moment. If only I had thought more about her.
"I am a failure as a mother."
I accidentally voiced my thoughts, and she noticed and ran out of the house. However, I couldn't chase after her. The image of her tear-stained, red face wouldn't leave my mind. I couldn't decide whether chasing her was the right thing to do as a mother or if I should leave her alone. I just stood there, crying alone. As if that day had never happened, our relationship remained unchanged. Alethea stopped going to high school and started working part-time every day, seemingly to avoid being at home. Of course, she never told me where or what kind of job she had. She probably stayed over at friends' houses because there were more and more days when she didn't come home.
"We're not related by blood. I'm not Alethea's real mother. But David entrusted Alethea to me, asking me to be a parent to her."
That worry never ceased for even a moment. I don't know how many times I cried thinking about it. I wished for another chance, thinking maybe I could still make things right. Even so, all I could do was work hard, trying to raise Alethea as a mother. So I never realized I wasn't making time for my daughter as a mother. What was truly needed wasn't money, a clean house, or delicious meals, but time spent together. One day, as usual, I came home after work to find the house lights on, which was rare. By this time, Alethea only came home when I wasn't there, so it was unusual for us to be at home together. When I opened the front door and went inside, I saw Alethea rummaging through the closet.
Stop doing things like a thief!
Maybe because I was tired from work, the first words out of my mouth to my daughter, whom I hadn't seen in a while, were those rather than a welcome back.
What? This is my house too. Everything here is mine as well, right?
She said, holding a bank statement that I had been saving under her name for a long time.
Wait, that's something I was saving to give you when you grew up. What are you going to use it for?
When I frantically questioned her, she coldly replied, I'm getting married. I had so many questions. Who is the person? Where did you meet? Have you met their family? What about the wedding? But no matter what I asked, Alethea didn't answer anything. It's always been that way. She never tells me anything important.
Just shut up. It has nothing to do with you. Leave me alone.
Alethea was the first to raise her voice.
Wait a minute. It's not right that you don't tell me anything as your mother.
I couldn't help but get angry too, and it seemed like an argument was about to start.
Listen, you're an embarrassment. You're not invited to the wedding. I don't have a mother who works at a club. My mom is supposed to be divorced and out of the picture.
With those final words, she left the house. Everything inside me collapsed with a crashing sound. I had neglected myself to raise her all this time. My job was criticized, and I was told there was no such thing as a mother. My entire existence was denied. Alethea probably won't come back home anymore. My role as a mother crumbled away so easily, ending abruptly. I was frozen in the middle of the room that Alethea had trashed, unable to move for a while, but eventually, I knew I couldn't stay like this and made a phone call. Several months passed, and today is Alethea's wedding day. I was watching from the shadows as she stood in her wedding dress. I never wanted to see Alethea in her beautiful dress under these circumstances, I thought. Today was the first time I saw the groom's face. Tall, with a kind, mature face, he smiled gently at Alethea. The woman beside me asked, "Are you ready to make your move?" and I nodded firmly. With a composed demeanor, I said, "Excuse me," and entered the room with the woman. Hearing my voice, Alethea and the groom's family turned to look at us. When Alethea realized one of the people entering was me.
Ma'am, I told you not to come,
she shouted. The woman next to me replied,
"Excuse me, but are you a staff member of this venue?"
She pretended not to know me. The truth is, the woman beside me was indeed a staff member at the venue and my biological daughter, Johanna. Alethea understood this too and glared sharply at Johanna. Although Johanna was not the couple's planner, they must have met a few times during the preparations. Now, for the first time, the two sisters who had never met were glaring at each other. Even after my divorce from my ex-husband, my relationship with Johanna remained good, with occasional phone calls and meeting once or twice a year. The day Alethea left home, the person I called was Johanna. I told her all about the incident with Alethea on the phone. Even after the divorce, Johanna continued to treat me as her mother. After my divorce from my ex-husband, I worked hard at a job at a club, which I now enjoy, but it was very tough at the time. With my ex-husband having custody, I felt I no longer had the right to see Johanna, so I spent my days just going back and forth between the club and home. Maybe I wanted to forget about Johanna quickly. After being engrossed in club work for a year, I received an email on my smartphone. It simply said, "Mom, I want to see you." She must have gotten a smartphone when she started junior high school, and I knew immediately that the email was from Johanna. I was happy that she still thought of me as her mother, despite losing my right as her mother. However, I lacked the confidence to meet her, thinking I didn't deserve it, so I couldn't reply to her email for a while. After exchanging a few more emails, We decided on a date and place to meet, and it was really going to happen. On the morning of the meeting, I was so nervous I couldn't eat breakfast. I was terrified that this might be the last time I saw her. Although I wouldn't say, "Let's cancel the meeting," I was so worried that she might be disappointed. When I arrived at the meeting place, I saw Johanna. Children grow up so fast. Even though it had only been a year, Johanna had grown taller and her hair had grown longer since the last time I saw her. Johanna. I called her name timidly. When Johanna heard my voice, she turned around and, as soon as she saw my face, she ran to me and hugged me tightly.
Ma'am.
I felt my grown-up daughter in my arms.
It's been a long time,
I said to Johanna, holding back my tears.
Ma'am, I missed you so much.
Just those words melted away all my worries. We entered the cafe while chatting, and I ordered Johanna's favorite parfait and orange juice, along with my coffee. Johanna talked a lot about her current life. Her ex-husband is still working as usual, and Johanna handles more than half of the housework. Her mother-in-law also comes by regularly to help with chores. Johanna is passionate about cooking and proudly told me that her specialty is meatloaf. Although she divorced her ex-husband, she didn't come to hate him as a person. She believes that her ex-husband will take care of Johanna until she fully grows up. On a whim, I asked Johanna what she thought of me.
After I divorced your father, Johanna, you lost your mother, and I know this past year alone has been really tough for you. I came prepared to hear that I no longer deserve to be called your mother.
As her mother, I shouldn't have been so weak in front of my daughter, Johanna. Yet Johanna smiled and began to speak slowly.
Dad and Ma'am decided to live separately, but that doesn't mean Ma'am stops being my Ma'am. I know that Ma'am cares about me. So let's continue to be mother and daughter in our own way.
Hearing this, I felt that Johanna was an incredibly mature person, far more than I deserved to call my daughter. Despite being such an imperfect mother, she still allows me to be her mother. From that day on, Johanna and I started keeping in regular contact and meeting up often. I gave her birthday and Christmas presents, gift cards, and celebrated her milestones like school entries and graduations. Although our relationship was different from a typical parent-child relationship, I began to believe I could do my best as Johanna's one and only mother. When I decided to remarry, I made sure to meet with Johanna and talk to her. Not only was I getting remarried, but my new partner had children. I was about to become a parent to another child. Of course, this didn't mean I would lose interest in Johanna, but I knew she might feel conflicted. Still, I didn't want to remarry without being honest with Johanna, so I decided to tell her the truth.
If Ma'am can be happy with this, it's fine. But will you stay the same even after you remarry?
Johanna asked anxiously. Of course. To ease her worries, I hugged her tightly. Reassured by my words, Johanna gave her blessing for my remarriage. Even after remarrying, my relationship with Johanna remained unchanged. At first, I avoided talking about Alethea, but when Johanna asked me to share about my stepchild, I began to open up. Though Johanna never expressed a desire to meet Alethea, and I didn't want them to meet either, she seemed to enjoy hearing stories and seeing pictures of Alethea. Johanna and Alethea were close in age, and Johanna often gave me advice on dealing with Alethea, knowing my struggles. After graduating high school, Johanna went to technical school and then started working as a wedding planner. Though she became busier after starting her job and we met less frequently, our bond remained strong. After getting the details over the phone, Johanna suddenly asked,
What's Alethea's last name again? How old is she?
She inquired about Alethea's details so suddenly, wanting to know everything. I told her everything I knew, and she said, maybe, and left the room for a moment. She returned hastily, speaking in a loud voice.
Alethea is having her wedding at our venue. My senior colleague is in charge.
Then she added,
As your daughter-in-law, I can't give you the groom's information, but I have an idea.
She said with a gleeful tone. Johanna's idea was to hire me as a temporary staff member at the wedding venue. Is that really okay?
It's my fault for not being able to become her mother in the first place.
I was filled with anger at Alethea, but I also felt inadequate and pathetic, lacking confidence.
You've done enough. Alethea is old enough to be called an adult. We need to be strict this time,
Johanna said, and I decided to go along with the plan. So I appeared at Alethea's wedding in the same suit as the venue staff. Seeing me suddenly appear as a staff member, Alethea was flustered. The groom, Hayden.
Mom? What does that mean? You said you were divorced and had no contact,
asked. Hearing Hayden's words, Alethea stopped glaring at Johanna and hurriedly put on a forced smile for Hayden.
No, it's just, this person stalked me and found out everything.
She made a desperate excuse. Hayden, looking puzzled, said, We'll talk about it later, and the ceremony proceeded. I participated in the wedding as a staff member until the end. Alethea glared at me and Johanna several times, but I didn't mind. For the past few months, I took a break from my club work to train at the wedding venue and help with other weddings, working as a regular part-time employee. All for this moment today. Hayden's family asked Johanna for an explanation.
We are staff, so we cannot provide personal information. Please ask the bride.
But she replied. Exhausted in body and mind, Alethea completed the ceremony. At the end of the wedding, I said to Alethea,
Congratulations, I wish you happiness,
and left the scene. Alethea probably wanted to portray me as a stranger. She didn't give a proper response, only a frustrated expression was visible. Later, Johanna asked,
How about continuing to work at the venue?
But I told her,
My current lifestyle suits me,
and returned to my club work. With the misunderstandings with Alethea now resolved, I can finally focus on work again, and my sales have been steadily increasing. On the other hand, Alethea found out about her mother's secrets coming to light and even getting married for money, leading to an immediate divorce. Later, Johanna told me that the wedding was far more extravagant than the average wedding. This meant that her marriage partner was quite wealthy. After the divorce, Alethea has been jumping from man to man, looking for someone to rely on, while moving from place to place. If Alethea had sincerely apologized and reached out to me, I would have accepted her as her mother, but it seems she absolutely doesn't want to rely on me. She has never come home or tried to contact me. Johanna and I have kept in touch regularly. Today, we were at the cafe where we reunited after a long time.
Thank you so much for everything with Alethea. I'm a failure as a mother, no matter how old I get,
I confessed to Johanna with a bitter smile.
It's okay. You'll always be my beloved mom. Besides, I wanted to give you this.
With that, she handed me her wedding invitation. My heart leaped at the thought of being able to attend as her mother.
My dad needs special meals for his condition. Nancy, can you make them for him?
While I was still processing this unexpected request, standing in front of a man in a wheelchair, my eldest son's wife, Christina, spoke up.
What? You want me to make those meals? Well, there's no one else we can ask but you, Nancy.
From what she told me, 6 months ago, Christina's parents were in a car accident. Her mother died, and her father, Benjamin, became paralyzed from the waist down.
Are you seriously expecting me to take care of him, Christina? If you don't do it, Nancy, who else will take care of Dad then? This is a major responsibility, and I haven't heard anything about it.
While I was still reeling from the shock, my eldest son, Brian, chimed in. We're about to go on a trip abroad. We won a vacation to Hawaii in a raffle at the mall the other day. It'd be a shame to cancel it now, right?
This is unbelievable. He is your dear father. I'm sure he'd prefer to be taken care of by his own blood rather than by a complete stranger like me. Yet, you're planning to leave your own father with someone he doesn't even know while you go off on a fun vacation abroad.
My heart felt like it was being crushed. Unlike when I was taking care of my own husband in our house, living in an apartment now means dealing with stairs. How am I supposed to manage taking care of someone in a wheelchair all by myself? I was incredibly angry at my daughter-in-law, who seemed to care more about her own enjoyment than her family, and at Brian, who just followed along with whatever she said. Please, just do this for us. We're going to miss our flight. With that, Brian and Christina left for the airport. In the now silent parking lot, Benjamin was left behind, staring blankly into space. A heavy atmosphere weighed down on my heart. My name is Nancy. I'm 61 years old. I work part-time and live a modest life as an ordinary housewife. 5 years ago, I lost my husband, Edward, to illness after being together for many years. After that, I moved to a small apartment. The house we lived in was one Edward had built when he was young, but after he passed away, and with our only son now living on his own, there were too many unused rooms.
It feels even lonelier in this house without anyone to talk to.
Talking to Edward's photo every day, the feeling of loneliness grew, which was one reason I decided to move. The new apartment was a bit further from the town where I used to live, but
the supermarket I work at is close by, and it's just right for living alone.
The landlord and the neighbors were all friendly and cheerful people, so I quickly got used to my new life. By the way, the house we sold fetched a decent price, but I've never been one for luxury. Also, I consider the money from the sale to be something Edward left for me.
I should save this money for an emergency.
With that thought, I became even more frugal than before. My only pleasure was the monthly dinners with my housewife friends, where we enjoyed good food. I'm sure my late Edward is up in heaven now. Why don't you treat yourself a bit more? He'd probably be saying with an amused smile. One day, my eldest son Brian, who lives far away, came to visit me for the first time in a while. Seeing Brian again for the first time since Edward's 2-year anniversary felt surreal. Brian, who works as a construction worker, has become tanned and looks every bit the carpenter since I last saw him. Every time we meet, I can't help but comment on how much he's changed. Again with that? I'm 33 now. I'm in charge of the younger guys at the site. You need to realize I've grown up. He would respond, somewhat embarrassed.
To me, you'll always be my child.
Aren't you lonely living here all by yourself? Brian, perhaps to cover his own embarrassment, suddenly changed the subject. I'm not exactly in a position to live luxuriously, but as a son, I worry about my elderly mom living alone. The Brian I once thought of as a child now showed concern for me. While feeling proud of him.
Thanks, but I still feel young. I'm not old enough to need to rely on someone as inexperienced as you.
I tried to show some bravado. Well, if you're doing fine, I guess it's not my place to interfere. He fell silent for a while, then after a moment to collect his thoughts. The truth is, I'm thinking of getting married soon. He looked me straight in the eye, speaking with a formal tone.
Really? Congratulations! You're finally getting a wife. So, what's she like? How old is she? What does she do?
I bombarded him with questions in my excitement. Her name is Christina, she's 3 years younger than me. She works at a boutique, and we met at a party. Brian hesitated to talk about how they met, but that didn't matter to me.
How you met doesn't matter. If you're getting married, I'm thrilled for you. Congratulations, Brian.
I reaffirmed my happiness for my son. After we get married, I'll make sure to visit regularly. If that's okay with you, of course.
There's no problem with that. I always welcome you. But won't Christina mind if I'm too involved? I've heard that young women today don't like their mothers-in-law meddling.
I don't think Christina would mind. She's kind-hearted, has a lovely smile, and I'm sure you'll like her.
That's wonderful. I'm looking forward to meeting her. And if you two have children, you better show me my grandchild soon.
That's probably why mothers-in-law get a bad reputation. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. For now, I just want to enjoy my life with her.
You're right. I'm sorry.
A week later, Brian brought his fiancée Christina to meet me.
Nice to meet you, Nancy. I'm Christina.
Well, what a lovely smile you have. Nice to meet you too. I knew she was 30, but she looked even younger and was as charming as Brian had said.
Brian is really lucky to have found her.
I thought to myself, just as.
Is this family home an apartment? Not a house?
Christina furrowed her brow and questioned Brian. I told you before, didn't I? Mom sold the house and moved. Brian whispered to her, trying to keep me from hearing. Pretending I hadn't heard.
It's a small place, but come in and have some tea.
I welcomed them. Christina peered into my room from the entrance.
This is unbelievable. I could never be friends with someone living in such an old apartment.
And exclaimed loudly. Hey, Christina. Brian tried to stop her, but it seemed she didn't hear him. We're getting married, Brian.
There's no need to greet a complete stranger, especially not the mother-in-law.
I turned off the stove, the water no longer boiling. Yes, that's right, just a complete stranger. The joyous feeling I had vanished, replaced by a dark cloud. All right, Brian, now that we've greeted Nancy, let's go.
I have some shopping to do.
Christina quickly descended the stairs to the parking lot.
Is she really the right person for you?
I asked Brian, my voice filled with concern. She has her good sides too. Brian defended Christina and then left with her. A month passed without any word from Brian.
Hey Brian. I know you're busy, but what about the wedding plans?
I finally decided to call my son. Brian sighed deeply, sounding burdened. Christina has her own schedule. When the wedding plans are finalized, I'll let you know. He answered apologetically.
Is that so? I don't mind the timing. But we need to inform the relatives, so you should tell me the details soon.
I know. Don't get mad. I'm hanging up now. Hello? Brian raised his voice slightly.
I'm not mad. I just want to know the details of the wedding.
Brian laughed. Sorry. It's not about you. Just something else.
Seriously, how long are you going to be on the phone?
I heard Christina's annoyed voice in the background.
Christina is there? Could you put her on? I've only met her once.
Ouch. All right, I'm hanging up. Sorry, Mom, we have something urgent now. I'll call you later. Brian hung up abruptly without waiting for my response.
Is she already controlling him before the marriage?
I wondered to myself.
If they're happy, I should stay out of it.
I tried to convince myself. But another month went by without any contact from Brian. Hey Mom, it's been a while. Glad to see you're doing well. Brian showed up at my apartment unexpectedly.
Are you two really doing okay?
Brian looked apologetic. We actually already had the wedding. I was stunned.
What? We haven't even informed the relatives.
Christina said it wasn't necessary.
What do you mean?
She said she couldn't invite someone living in an old, musty apartment to the wedding. I couldn't believe my ears. Christina had said something that cruel.
So, her parents attended?
Of course. Lots of relatives and friends were there. It was quite a lively event. Brian had a cheerful smile as he recounted a happy memory. Seeing his attitude made me feel so exasperated that I almost burst into tears. How can you laugh so carefree when your own mother has been left out like this? Brian, trying to be considerate in his own way, said, "That's why I'm here to see you, Mom. I'll keep visiting her regularly, so don't worry." He said that, but after visiting 2 or 3 more times, he completely stopped coming. Even when I occasionally called him, he would cut the conversation short, saying he was busy. Brian used to be so straightforward, but maybe he's been influenced by Christina. My doubts about Brian began to grow. About 6 months after the wedding, Brian called me for the first time in a while. "I'm thinking of coming over this weekend.
Aren't you busy with work? Are you sure you have the time?"
Honestly, I was happy my son was coming to see me, but I expressed my concern for his schedule instead. "It's fine. Besides, this time I'm not just coming alone. Christina and her family are planning to come along too. Is that okay with you?"
Christina's family? You mean her parents?
"Yeah. You haven't met them yet, right?"
Of course not. You guys went ahead and had the wedding without telling me, so I never had a chance to meet them.
When I lightly protested, Brian laughed on the other end of the line.
I've apologized for that many times.
Christina suggested that we should all meet this time.
She did? Really?
I was surprised that Christina wanted to introduce her family to me. This is the same woman who mocked me for living in a shabby apartment and didn't invite me to the wedding. What could have changed? Nevertheless, I was genuinely happy that my son was taking the time to come see me, despite his busy schedule. Even if Christina had some ulterior motive, I had no reason to refuse their visit.
All right. This weekend then. I'll be looking forward to it.
Thanks, Mom. I really appreciate it. I felt a bit uneasy about the excitement in his voice. Why would he be thanking me for this? There was no reason I should be thanked for meeting Christina and her family. Besides, there was another thing that worried me. It might not be a big deal, but my current apartment is just right for one person. It wasn't meant to accommodate a large group. So, if Brian, Christina, and her family came over, there wouldn't be enough space.
Well, if it comes to that, we can just go to a nearby cafe.
Thinking that, I didn't take the problem too seriously. On the day Brian and his wife were supposed to visit, I felt restless from the morning. I usually keep the place clean, so it wasn't too dirty. But since important guests were coming, I cleaned more thoroughly than usual. Cleaning done, laundry done. All set. Just as I finished hanging the laundry on the balcony, I heard a familiar car engine stopping in the parking lot downstairs. I smiled at myself in the bathroom mirror, practicing over and over again. I have to make a bright impression. Though Christina was one thing, I imagined what her parents, whom I had yet to meet, might look like and rehearsed my greetings in my head countless times. I listened carefully at the front door, hoping to hear footsteps coming up the stairs, but the stairs remained eerily silent. Curious, I opened the door and looked down at the parking lot to see Brian and Christina doing something around Brian's familiar car. Christina was unfolding a wheelchair, and Brian was helping a man out of the back seat. The man had some gray hair, but he looked a bit too young to be called elderly. And the man being helped seemed unaccustomed to the situation, moving awkwardly with Brian. I quickly ran down the stairs and headed toward Brian and the others. "Mom, you came to welcome us." Brian noticed me and smiled. "Let me introduce you. This is Christina's father, Benjamin. As you can see, he's in a wheelchair."
Oh, my.
Feeling sorry for the man in the wheelchair, I was at a loss for words.
Dad prefers special meals. Nancy, can you make something for him?
Christina suddenly said something outrageous.
What? You want me to make special meals?
I was bewildered by the unexpected request, and Christina added,
"Who else is there?" "You're the only one we can ask, Nancy."
She said this as if it were the most natural thing in the world, smiling all the while.
"It was right after our wedding, so about 6 months ago. Mom and Dad got into a car accident while on a drive. Mom passed away, and Dad miraculously survived. He just got out of the hospital recently, but he's paralyzed on one side and is in a state of shock, so he really needs the family's support."
Oh, that's a pity. I felt genuine sympathy for Benjamin. But then I tilted my head in confusion.
"So why do I have to make his special meals?"
I thought it was only natural that Christina, his daughter, should make and feed her father. I asked Christina. Christina, with a pouty smile, said,
"I'm just not suited for caregiving. If Mom were alive, she would have done it, but since she's gone, there's no one else."
"Are you really expecting me to take care of him, Christina?"
"Yes, as I've been saying. If you don't do it, who else will take care of Dad?"
Christina said as if it were the most obvious thing in the world.
"I haven't heard anything about this."
I was stunned by the sudden turn of events.
"But we talked about it on the phone, remember?
Bringing Christina's family over. You promised you'd take care of her dad." Brian looked at me, surprised.
"I don't remember making any such promise."
"Really? Well, anyway, that's the plan now. So I'll be counting on you to take care of Edward for a while." "Thanks." Brian gave a slight bow. "It's not like I can just accept this so easily."
"I can't believe you're springing this on me. We have stairs here, and how is Benjamin going to manage living with a complete stranger?"
Benjamin stared blankly into space, unable to articulate his feelings.
"Isn't it the family's responsibility to take care of their own? Look at me, Nancy. Can't you see I'm not cut out for heavy lifting?"
"We're going on a trip. We won a trip to Hawaii at the shopping mall raffle. Canceling it now would be such a waste." Even though Benjamin didn't say anything, I knew he would prefer his daughter's care over that of a stranger like me. Yet Christina was pushing Benjamin onto me and planning to go to Hawaii without a care.
"This is unbelievable."
I fumed. Ignoring my frustration, Christina continued.
"If you don't feel comfortable with just you, why not hire a professional home care worker? Brian told me you got a lot of money from selling your previous house."
I glared at Brian. Brian quickly looked away.
"You told her that?"
Christina was already seated in the car, honking the horn to signal they were ready to leave.
"We have no choice but to rely on you, Mom. Sorry, but we're going to miss our flight."
With that, he got into the driver's seat, started the car, and drove off before I could stop them. Benjamin stood there silently in the deserted parking lot, staring into the void. "Nancy, what's going on?" Helen, the landlord, had come out to see what the commotion was about. I was at my wit's end and explained the situation to her. Helen shook her head. That is ridiculous. There are stairs here, and it's hard for one woman to handle caregiving alone. But we can't just leave him out here. We need to get him to his room at least. Honey, is Matthew around? Helen, grasping the situation, called out for Matthew, who lived in the same apartment complex. Matthew, a 47-year-old man, worked for an equipment company during the week. He had a strong build from playing rugby in college.
I'm so sorry to bother you on your day off.
I apologized, bowing my head slightly. No problem. We help each other out in times of need. Matthew easily lifted Benjamin onto his back, while I folded the wheelchair and carried it to my apartment.
We got him to the room, but the question is what to do next.
Helen sighed deeply, feeling the weight of the situation as if it were her own problem.
I'll help as much as I can whenever I have the time.
She offered.
I can help on my days off too.
I'm strong, so feel free to rely on me. Matthew said with a big smile. Nancy, you always share your stew with me.
I've been looking for a chance to return the favor.
The heavy atmosphere lifted slightly, bringing me a sense of peace. Just then, Brian called. Oh, I forgot to mention, could you also take care of our 2 dogs? They need to be walked twice a day, morning and evening, and fed. The food and leashes are in our shed. Thanks. Brian said casually, as if it were just a side note while shopping.
Hold on a second. You're not suggesting the dog sitting is going to be at your place, right?
What are you talking about? Of course, it's going to be at our house. It might be a bit far, but please take care of it. Bye. He hung up before I could respond, cutting off the conversation just after delivering his demands. Brian and his wife's house is a 2-hour drive from here. Without a car, I have no choice but to use public transportation, transferring between trains and buses. Plus, I have to take care of Benjamin as well. If I have to do this commute every day until Brian and his wife return, it will be a huge expense. I felt the weight of the situation pressing down on me again.
While Nancy takes care of the dogs, I'll take care of Benjamin. I have experience taking care of my late husband.
Helen kindly suggested. That's not necessary. I've had enough. Those 2 need to make amends for their mistakes. I resolved to get back at my son and his wife and discussed my plan with Helen and Matthew. Both Helen and Matthew agreed with my idea.
You're right. This is too much for you to handle alone.
Exactly.
They need to learn a lesson.
They both supported my decision wholeheartedly. Benjamin, in a room with no familiar faces, was biting his lower lip, probably feeling lonely. As Benjamin stared intently at me, I had a sense he wanted to convey something.
Benjamin, do you have something you want to tell me?
Benjamin gripped my hand tightly. Thanks to his rehabilitation, his grip was stronger than I had expected. Bringing his face close to my ear, he said haltingly but clearly, "Give them a good scolding." Seeing the determined look in his eyes, I nodded.
Please leave it to me.
With his strong will confirmed, my resolve became unshakable. But even though I wanted to get back at them, I couldn't just abandon him. Doing that would make me no better than Brian and his wife, who left for their trip. Instead, I decided to use legitimate means to shock and unsettle them. I contacted an old acquaintance, a care worker who had helped with my late husband's illness. The care worker, though retired, said, "I understand.
So, you want us to take care of Benjamin at the care facility until your son returns from his trip?"
She assured me that she still had connections at her former workplace.
You're the only one I can rely on. I'll pay all the expenses up front.
Within an hour of our conversation, A transport bus from the care facility arrived.
Please take care of Benjamin.
Leave it to us. The strong staff easily lifted Benjamin onto the bus, taking him to the care facility.
Benjamin's problem is solved. Now for the next step.
I felt a weight lift from my shoulders and immediately moved on to the next part of my plan. I called the animal welfare organization Matthew had found.
A couple I know left 2 dogs behind while they went on an overseas trip. Can you please take them in?
Of course.
There have certainly been some terrible pet owners out there.
And so, both dogs were safely taken in by an animal welfare organization.
But aren't you worried that your sons might complain about this later?
Despite Helen's concern, I replied, I'm planning to move out and return to my hometown. I don't have any relatives left there, but I never want to see my son and his wife again.
That might be for the best.
Helen supported my decision, smiling a little sadly. A few days later, I paid Helen the penalty fee. Once I'm settled over there, I'll send you some local specialties.
If anything comes up, I'll give you a call.
Helen saw me off with a smile. Later, after I'd settled into living alone in my hometown, Helen called me. She detailed what happened after Brian and Christina returned from their trip. When the two arrived at the apartment I had lived in.
Mom, open up. It's me, your son. Dad's here too, right? Are you taking good care of the dogs?
But when there was no response despite their calls, Christina kicked the door in frustration.
What's going on? It's so noisy.
A burly man suddenly appeared, and the two of them shrank back, hugging each other. Helen, watching in silence, told them I had already moved out of the apartment.
So where's my father? And the dogs? Abandoning everything is just inexcusable.
Christina shamelessly berated me, Helen said. In reality, a new tenant had moved in right after I left, and it was now someone else's apartment. At that moment, several police officers arrived. Standing there in shock, the two were taken in by the police to explain the abandonment of Benjamin and the dogs.
There was such a commotion outside the apartment that a crowd gathered. It was quite a scene.
Helen laughed as she recounted the events. Although they weren't arrested, it seemed an irreparable rift had formed between Brian and Christina. Brian frequently called my smartphone.
She doesn't act like a wife at all, and whenever I come home tired from work, she just complains.
The more he talked, the angrier he got, his words pouring out like a broken dam, filled with complaints about Christina.
We ended up getting divorced. It's all your fault, Mom. Why did you have to do something so ridiculous?
But blaming me for it was entirely unjustified. Who's being ridiculous here, really? I responded lightly and had no intention of further arguing.
With the costs of taking care of Christina's dad and the dogs, and having just built a new house, we're still in legal disputes over property rights. If things go badly for me, it could be financially tough. So, Mom, you have a part in this too. What's going on? This is strange. Mom? Are you even listening to me? Hello? Mom? Maybe it's because we're in the countryside? The signal is bad. Please, can't we meet and talk just once?
His constant nagging on the phone became unbearable, so I finally hung up. I quickly set his number to block calls. Then, placing my hands together in front of my late husband's photo. The tomatoes are starting to ripen. I'll be heading to the garden today. I'm currently enjoying a peaceful life, funded by the sale of my house.